What's going on, everybody? This is Brian Mazik, aka Unique Mazik, the hardest working man in sports and gaming, and this is At Me Bro. And I got with me Nelson Blake II. What's going on, Nelson?
How you doing, Musique, man? How was your week so far?
I don't think I can hear you.
You can't hear me?
There we go. I can now.
I haven't changed anything. What you messing around with over
I
there,
don't know. I
man?
thought you. It seemed like you lost time for a second. I don't know what went on. Did you? Was you? Was you? Did you? I don't know.
See how we start, y'all?
There we go. Okay. All right. Because I don't know. It feels like you're playing little games with your
What are
face.
you talking about?
Like
I'm just
you
sitting
throw it.
here
Like
talking.
you.
I'm not touching anything.
I don't know. Is that you were like,
Nah, man, I'm
I didn't
talking.
know what was going on. It scared me. So how's everything going?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. Good week so far. Mortal Kombat week. Excited, man.
It
Real
was. It
excited.
is. It is. We're gonna talk about that, but not right now. So don't start saying stuff that ain't nobody finna talk about. You just
You asked how it was, man. That's how it is. It's
that
good.
ain't how it is. Mortal Kombat. That's how it is.
Yeah,
That's
that's
not
how
a
it is,
proper
man.
answer to a question.
It's been bloody.
How is it? Mortal
It's been
Kombat.
bloody good.
Dang on it. Now that sounds like a tough week. Yeah.
Look at you eating right in front of the people.
This
You
is
hungry?
oh that's hey. Let me see.
We need to take a break. Hey, everybody, we'll be back in 5 minutes. Get
No,
Brian some dinner.
this is salt and pepper pistachio nut. It's pretty tasty. Make you keep on coming back and eating them.
Pistachios are delicious. I'm a huge
They,
fan.
they can be
Huge
good.
fan.
They can be good. They can actually be kind of trashy too, but they all right. You know. All right, so we got a lot of people in the chat. I appreciate all y'all coming through and being here
Ooh,
um,
that's good
on
coffee.
time. And all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, much appreciated. 1989, my man. He was
That's my
hilarious
dog.
last
That's my
week. Yep.
dog. All y'all in the chat.
Mike Smith, sporting
Uh-huh.
on Twitter as always. Mook
That's
Allen,
right.
Paige Shakir. Let's go.
Yeah. All my people.
Andrew.
All my people down there at 7-Eleven and Walgreens. When I get my cold medicine, I appreciate y'all. Coming through, hollering at your boy. All right, let's jump into this show because I got something that I want to tell you, and I'm talking to you specifically, and I want you to listen to me good now when I tell you this because I know you got problems. Russell Westbrook overrated as I don't know what, Nelson. And I'm gonna tell you something. I really don't care nothing. I don't care about nothing you have to say about it because that's it. We could actually move on to the next topic right now if you wanted to, but that's it.
So let's talk about your rating for Russell Westbrook. Earlier in the year, you had Russell Westbrook, I believe, third on your top 5 point guards list.
I did.
And in your most recent video, you put him as sixth.
I did.
So moving down 3 places in a
Yes,
talented point guard group is overrated as hell.
it is.
See, this what's wrong with you.
No,
This is
no,
this
no.
your
This is
problem
what's
right
wrong
here.
with you
This
because
your
we're
problem right
about to
here.
go back down the street of the Russell Westbrook Defense Committee with
I
you.
told you I retired. I told y'all I retired the defense committee after he averaged a triple double for a whole season. I told
Yeah,
y'all why the
and I
defense
think
committee
that's the
erected.
problem. I
I
think
told
that's
y'all
the
why.
problem.
Hold on, let me
I think
do
that's the
this now.
problem, though.
Because the people have a misunderstanding. I never, when we did our point guard rankings, we put Russell Westbrook in the same place. If I was on the defense committee, you would think I would have him higher than you did.
No, I mean
And
because you
that's
know
not the
not to
case.
go completely Looney Tunes. You never
No.
go full Looney Tune.
So here's the
Robert
thing.
Downey Jr. taught you that. You never do that.
I see. That's not the word you want to use, but we'll rock with it. The family show. Here's the thing. Um, these guys are close in talent once you get behind James Harden. Russ, Dame, Kyrie, I'll throw Kemba in there. That group of guys. And back when John Wall was playing his best, he was in that group. And depending on how they play, that's where you rate them. Before this year, last thing Damian Lillard did was get swept by a Pelicans team that nobody expected to do anything, right? And they lost Boogie Cousins, still swept them. He got locked up by Drew Holiday and Rajon Rondo. So he was rated lower, although we acknowledged he's extremely talented, really good. Russell Westbrook is coming off of a horrible shooting year, which we talked about on this show
A
the
whole
entire
year.
time.
A whole year.
Well, his shooting ticked up at the All Star break. But as we said on this show, Paul George's injury and losing Abrinas severely hurt the Thunder. The Thunder did not have shooting to spare. We called this before the series. This is why my series prediction was it depends on Paul George's shoulders. I expected the Thunder to lose if Paul George wouldn't do anything. What he say? Game one, he shot terrible. I haven't shot the ball in 4 days, so I couldn't lift my arms. So you know what my prediction was based off of that. While I give Russell Westbrook plenty of blame, and the thing is, you say he's overrated. Everybody's killing him. Everybody's killing him. You got every play. De'Aaron Fox is better than Russell Westbrook right now, according to everybody. So he's not overrated because nobody's rating him high.
No, I didn't say that. I never said that.
I'm saying you said D'Angelo Russell,
I did.
right? So and D'Angelo Russell, and listen, I'm from Brooklyn. I've loved nothing more than to D'Angelo Russell from now on be much better than Russell Westbrook ever was and ever will be. As it is, that's not currently the case. Russell Westbrook had a down shooting year. Um, just like Dame Lillard, if he comes back and has a better year next year, if he learns from it, we'll change our opinions. And that's what happens when you're close in talent. Those who perform get moved up, those who don't get moved down. To say Russell is overrated while everyone is killing him, talking about his legacy, he's trash, he can't shoot, he needs to be moved to shooting guard. Everybody's saying that. So how's he overrated?
Well, all right. Now I will rebut. He's overrated because if you, we're not talking about, when I say he's overrated, I'm not talking about what the last 5 things that somebody just wrote about Russell Westbrook is. I'm talking about an overall evaluation of Russell Westbrook's career, hit where he sits among the top players of his era, all of those things. If you ask most people, what do they think of Russell Westbrook as a player, as a superstar, and you get them outside of this moment, right? And you get them talking about him during this season. You get them talking about him before this season. All of those different things. Most people hold Russell Westbrook in extremely high regard. Not only would they say he's a top 5 point guard, I think many people would say or would have said that he is a top 5 player in the NBA, right?
I don't agree with that.
I cannot, I 100% believe that, especially before this season, if you ask people who are the top 5 players
The
in
top
the
five
NBA,
players going into the season were Giannis, Kawhi, Anthony Davis, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, and Steph Curry. Those were the top players in the league.
that was
Even
like 6, but I think that
yeah, and I'm
I
saying
think
because some people had one and some people had the other. So some people had Giannis ahead of Anthony Davis. Some people had Anthony Davis ahead of Giannis. But overall, those six took up the top five. Russell Westbrook was not above those six on any credible person's list.
that I strongly disagree with that, and
Cool.
I know that that's not the case. And the definition of credible is relative. That you can I could bring up somebody and you could say, oh, that person's not credible. So that's neither here nor there. What I'm saying is, you if you talk to people and you ask people and you read these different talent evaluators, or you read different takes from across the NBA community, which is a vast community, many people would say that he was a top 5 player. How can you say nobody would say he's a top 5 player and he's a
Well,
year
I'm
removed?
saying
Hold on, 20
uh,
second time out. 20 seconds. How can you say that that nobody would say he's a top 5 player and he's a year removed from an MVP? Who where and nobody's saying it?
well, there was a
Nobody's saying
name.
it?
There was a name that I didn't put on that list as top five, and that was James Harden, and he just won the MVP. And you didn't blink when I put that list up, because it was going into this season. James Harden had just won an MVP. It was that he had an MVP performance for the season, but no one had him as a top five player because they didn't believe that once you were in the postseason, he was one of the best five people you would want on your team from the top players in the league. That was not believed about James Harden by most people, because if you look at the rest of that squad, with the exception of Steph Curry, everybody else is a two-way player who's bigger than James. And James hadn't killed anybody in the playoffs yet. And what you do in the playoffs is your reputation. Just like right now with Russell Westbrook. He had a bad playoff performance. Now he's taking a big hit, and he deserves it. But at the same time, I'm not going to define a guy's entire career based off of his last playoff performance, particularly when he's only 30 years old. He's got a lot of career left ahead of him. And I like to actually cite his quote recently from the press conference he did.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's
Can I
that's
can I
that's
do the
that's
quote?
that's
Can I
leading
do the
into my
quote?
next point.
Can I do the quote?
I don't know if you can do the same quote that I have because I actually took this quote out because I really wanted to make reference to this one.
Well, let me finish. Let me finish, and then you could play off it. So what he said was, people when you do a lot of things well, people are always going to say something. Before it was he's a ball hog, he doesn't pass, and then I lead the league in assists for 3 years or however long it is right now, and now they're on the shooting thing. I'm going to come back as a better shooter next year. Quick note on the Westbrook defense committee: when people were dogging him, he wasn't averaging 10 assists a game. What I was saying was every year his assists are going up. You guys are burying him as a young player, but if I look at him compared to all the other young players, this is undeserved because he's apparently improving at this. And he did improve at it. And while I don't think he is as good of a passer as other 10 assist players are, I also think it's an exaggeration to say he just dribbles the ball and passes at the last second. That's not true. He makes some brilliant passes. He's excellent in the pick and roll, and he sets up some of his guys for the most wide open 3-point shots you could find. On the shooting end, he, even in his stubborn projection in the media, he acknowledged he's not a good shooter, and he said he's going to work on it. Now, if he comes back next year and his shooting is worse or the same, then we kill him again. If his shooting is better, then we reevaluate him. So this overrated thing is an oversimplification. Uh, it's silliness. How did he play this year in the playoffs? He didn't play well. Dame deserves to be ahead of him because Dame outplayed him. It's that simple.
No one would have put Dame ahead of him to start the season. Nobody would have done that. So what that says is that at some point there was a perception or a thought that he was better than Dame.
No,
And
what
here's the
that
thing.
says is
And here's
Dame
the
was being
thing.
punished for
No,
getting swept because
no,
before the
no, it's
playoffs
not
started,
that. It's more
Dame was
than that.
averaging
It's
35
more
points
than
a
that.
game
It's
going into the
more than that.
playoffs.
It's more than that. What it is what makes Russell Westbrook overrated is the thought that he is a piece that can be used on a championship level team as a point guard. That is what makes him overrated because that is a thought that many people have. Not there's people who don't believe it. There's obviously people that don't believe it. I'm a person that doesn't believe it. But there are still people who believe that Russell Westbrook can be the point guard for a championship team. That's where he is thought of. And because that thought still exists in a good number of people, that is what makes him overrated. And I'm going to share a quote with you. And this is something that you gotta really take a note of. And this is an intangible where Russell Westbrook is looked at or seen as a person who's this headstrong. He's a dog. He's a monster. He goes out and he plays so hard and he plays with this thing. But what really is the case is Russell Westbrook is selfish, self-absorbed, stubborn, and uncoachable. That is the problem. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. Look at this. I hope y'all can see it. And I highlighted the amount of I statements in his quote. If you want to determine my career by what I've done over 2-3 games, you go ahead. That don't mean S to me. It doesn't. I'm going to wake up like I told you before. 3 beautiful kids. I'm going to wake up and smile, be happy, enjoy my life. Doesn't change anything about that, about if I'm playing bad or who's better, who's not. I know who I am as a person, and that's the biggest thing I can say about myself. I know who I am. I know what I'm able to do. I know my capabilities. I know what I've done. I know what I can and can't do. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with who I am. I'll just be blessed to wake up every day and enjoy my life. To talk about, I don't even know what talk you're talking about. But whatever it is, you guys can keep talking about it, and I'm going to keep living my life. That is the ultimate get off me. I'm so tired of everybody talking about me. Yeah, I took 777 shots and it didn't matter. And I'm shooting 0.2% from the 3-point line and 0.1% from the free throw line. Get off me. Get off me. I make a lot of mean faces. I was talking about rock the baby to sleep, but Damian Lillard bust my behind for 5 games. You're not a winner. You're not a winner. You're not a winner. And that's what makes you overrated, because there are people who believe that you are. You're not a winner.
Are you done?
I think I dropped the mic already.
No, that was a silly performance, taking the guy's paragraph, and coming up with some armchair psychology nonsense about him. I'm talking basketball here. And on
Basketball
basketball,
is
can I
mental.
finish? 20 second
Basketball is
timeout?
mental.
20 second timeout?
Basketball is
20
mental.
second timeout? Can I
Basketball is
finish?
mental.
What I said about OKC, and this is on Sam Presti. We compared Russell Westbrook to a smaller version of Giannis in the sense of the way he goes to the basket, the athleticism, and so on and so forth. Giannis is surrounded by a bunch of shooters. I've been saying this since Kevin Durant was still on the team. And the problem is exactly the same with Paul George there. If you are trying to build a team with Russell Westbrook as one of your main pieces, you should surround him with shooting. And watching Oklahoma City miss so many wide open, easy three-pointers is an eyesore. And some of those three-pointers are generated by Russell Westbrook. So I'm not going to take the blame off of the team construction. When you have an injured Paul George, by the way, Steven Adams, Jerry and Grant, and you given minutes to Raymond Felton, I'm like, no, that team's not winning the championship. That's not an expectation I have. There's an ideal version of a team that should be surrounded by Russell Westbrook, that should surround Russell Westbrook. You look at James Harden's team, bunch of defenders and three-point shooters. You look at Giannis's team, bunch of defenders and three-point shooters. Golden State, bunch of defenders and three-point shooters. Oklahoma City, bunch of athletes nobody can shoot. I'm not going to ignore that piece of evidence, and particularly when you actually watch the games and you watch them play. Now, that doesn't mean that Russell Westbrook gets excused for his flaws. He acknowledged he's a bad shooter. It's plainly obvious he's a bad shooter. He had a down year, particularly because there are good shots that he used to have that he came in without this year. His pull-up from the free throw line used to be deadly, and it was just not even a great shot this year.
How about the free throw line when nobody's guarding him? How about that? How about that shot?
I mean, again, you're being silly.
How am I being what are you talking about?
Because that was silly? A deadly. Because that was a deadly weapon for him.
Shoot free throws. Nobody's guarding you, right? The fact that he makes 64% of them, so that's silly. You're right, it's silly. I think it's silly that you're not making free throws.
Again, we already killed him for the free throws on this show, and even on the free throw content, what was he 6 for 6 in game one?
And you know what? Here is where you are contradicting yourself. You kill Ben Simmons for not making free throws, but you dismiss Russell Westbrook for not
because
making.
Russell
and they're
Westbrook,
similar style players. Only thing is one guy's bigger.
First of all, you also kill Ben Simmons, and the thing about
absolutely the same way I'm killing Russell Westbrook.
The difference being Russell Westbrook is a career. He'd been in the 80s for his entire career. So when he was shooting, I mean, terrible from the free throw line early in the year, and he shot 10% below last year, which I brought up first before anybody was talking about it. I'm like, this is alarming. He's got to fix it. I looked at him in the second half of the season, and his free throws started to tick back up. I don't know what's going on with the free throws, but it's a one-year thing. I'm not going to say he's going to be like that forever. I need to see more body of work, more body of evidence, particularly because in the first half of the season, he was terrible. And in the second half of the season, he was inconsistent, which is different from terrible. Now, if you surround him with shooters.
From the free throw line,
he finish, please?
Inconsistent?
Yes. Yeah.
That's not true.
He had a lot of.
Incorrect. That's incorrect.
He had a lot of 2 for 5 games, and then he had a lot of 3 for 5, 4 for 5, 5 for 5 games. The alarming thing was he's not going to the line as much. He needs to get his attempts back up. But my thing is this: if you surround him with shooters and space the floor, then the onus is on him to get to the basket because there's space. And you either get a foul or get somebody a three-point shooter. The team isn't even built like that. Oklahoma City, he goes to the basket. Everybody else in a teal jersey standing in the paint with him. So the team is constructed very poorly for a championship run, a playoff run. They need better shooting. Again, doesn't take the blame off of Westbrook. I'm giving him the blame. He has to improve. I don't know how many times I got to say that. No, but I'm not going to – when a guy has shot over 80% for most of his career, I'm willing to say, hey, you started out with knee surgery. You just had twins. Maybe something's going on. Let's see another year.
Now we talking about babies and surgery. Now we talking about – and I'm silly? And we talking about babies in surgery?
Well, the reports out of Oklahoma City
I
are
you can
that
bring up
something that
you can
that
bring up babies in surgery, but I can't bring up the
well, I
fact that
definitely
you
bring up
know
knee
the player.
surgery. Absolutely. When you skip training camp in your off season, it takes sometimes that throws guys games off significantly. So when somebody comes back from knee surgery, I think that's relevant. So because it's relevant to say, are you ending the season healthy? Okay, let's see what your training camp is like. That's valid. Now, when it comes to the babies thing, the word out of Oklahoma City is that something about his routine is off. I don't know what that is, but
You
that he's a
know,
very routine, control-oriented player, and that it's messing up his game, and that he's switching something up. Now, the thing is, when I look at his numbers in the second half of the season, I see, okay, in the first half, you were consistently absolutely terrible. In the second half, I'm starting to see some games where you shoot really well. I'm starting to see some games where you shoot really well from the free throw line. So let me see which is the trend. Are you going to be the guy you were in the beginning of the season last year? Are you going to be inconsistent? Or are you going to work on it and come back better next year? That's all I'm saying.
that is a big bag of doo-doo, is what that is. A big heaping pot of it. You are getting so many excuses for this guy, and you are affording him so many excuses that you do not afford every player. You will kill a guy in 5 seconds all the other times. But now we talking about, oh, well, he had knee surgery. Then he had 2 twins. And, you know, one of the baby's name is Unique and the other one's name is Monique. And then he got to buy both twins matching pair of shoes. And then, oh, you got to remember something's wrong with his routine because, you know, his car don't start on Wednesdays. Man, every single player in the NBA has to deal with family and life situations. And when their play suffers, people are going to criticize them. People are going to
I've
say
been
you didn't
critical of
play
Westbrook.
well.
Like the thing is, there's not a single
Nobody
criticism
cares.
of Westbrook
But
that I've
nobody
argued.
cares. No one cares. All I know is that it doesn't matter why you're overrated. It doesn't matter why you
No,
telling me
it
why.
matters
I'm telling you it
again,
did.
when you're an 80% or above free throw shooter for years on end and you have a bad year, you get the benefit of the doubt. When you can't shoot at all, you get looked at differently
And
because it's a skill
you,
you have
you
to
just
acquire,
and you just
not
said
reacquire.
that Milwaukee, you painted Milwaukee as this vastly better three-point shooting team
They
than
are.
Oklahoma City. And that's not correct.
That is
It's not.
correct.
Oklahoma City shot 34.8% from the three as a team. Milwaukee shot 35.3%. We're talking about a half a percent better, but you're painting them as if they are the
You
2015,
always go to
17 Golden State.
percentages, and honestly,
I go to the
percentages.
numbers
You
because
you
the
you
numbers
went to
don't lie.
percentages to try to make the argument.
The numbers are impervious to the Nelsonary because the Nelsonary is going to paint
It's no, because
whatever picture it wants to paint.
this is
The
a
numbers
consistent
don't lie.
argument. This is a
The numbers
consistent
don't lie.
argument because the issue, because and here's the thing. What did I say? I said with Abrinas and Paul George going down, they lose the amount of shooters. And the thing is, I said the same thing about Philadelphia last year. They need more shooters. People said they have JJ Redick. Yeah, but what happens when he sits down? You go through this stretch. I said the same thing about Paul George. The problem with Paul George, he is not just about him getting his numbers. He has to specifically be able to shoot the three, and they need a Brenus out there so that when he's on the floor, he has this legitimate second unit. He can be inefficient, and what happens is they go through this long stretch where nobody scores, and that's not good enough because no lead is safe, and you never get a big lead. Milwaukee, first of all, phenomenal defensive team, phenomenal offensive team, but everybody on the roster except Giannis could hit the three, and even Giannis is at almost 30%. Everybody on the roster can hit the three. Oklahoma City, you have guys who literally cannot shoot the three, several of them on the court at the same time.
How
Or
many
if they can hit the three, they
how many
can't
of these
do
guys?
anything else.
So you're they see you keep changing the criteria for what it
I've been
is
talking
that
about
you're
3 and D this entire time, Brian.
no, it's so now, first of all, Milwaukee was a vastly better shooting team than
They are.
Oklahoma City. Now it's not really that they're a better shooting team. It's only dependent on these guys and this.
No, having great depth at the shooting is part of being a great shooting team. The fact that Brogdon could be cold and Bledsoe could be hot, or the fact that Brogdon and Bledsoe could be shooting real bad, and
So
you could.
what's a good what's a 3-point percentage where you say, well, this guy's a good 3-point shooter?
I'm just looking at the shooters, man. I'm looking at the shooters that they have.
But
I'm
see,
talking
you
specific.
don't want to go
I'm
to the
not talking
numbers
general.
because if
I'm
we
not
go to
talking
the
general.
numbers, it'll disprove what you're saying.
No, I'm not generalizing because we're talking about specifically two teams. If you want to go down the line, of the Milwaukee Bucks and say, is Brook Lopez a better shooter than Steven Adams? By far. Is the threat of Brook Lopez making the floor
That's
spacing
one
on? Can I
position.
finish, please?
That's
Can I
one
finish, please?
position.
Yeah,
You
it's
have
the
not let
center
me finish.
position.
You haven't let me finish one point all
It's the
for the first
center
segment of the
position.
show.
And
So
if you are such a big fan of the 2K League, you know when the center could shoot, you get to play 5 out, right? And 5 out is a spacing that makes it easier for guys who can't shoot but are good at driving to the basket to be more effective. And part of the reason Russell Westbrook's not effective is because there's always at least 3 other people in the paint.
no, that's not why. Part of the reason why Russell Westbrook is ineffective is because Russell Westbrook makes bad decisions. Russell Westbrook is a stat
Look at
pattern.
our chat. Our chat is so smart.
Yeah,
Bucks ain't lying.
it's
Bucks spread the
formulaic. It's
floor
very
better.
formulaic. It's
Numbers
very formulaic.
lie.
It's very
Jesus
formulaic. When you run
Brian.
out of ammo, you go to the chat and look for allies.
I
I
just
don't need
listen,
them.
man. I
I
just
don't
know we
need
have
them.
a
They can
really
pull up the stats
intelligent viewer
just like I
base.
did. They can pull up the stats, so you can go look for the Nelsonites if you want. But I'm talking about the numbers. You can find the Nelsonites if you want, but I'm talking about the numbers. The Nelsonites don't know no more than you do because they only know what you teach them.
I mean, you can insult our people all you want, but
They only know what you
I
teach
know Oklahoma City would love to be bringing Ilyasova, George Hill, and Mirotic off the bench right now. Oh my God, if they had that, we'd be having a completely different conversation.
you know, we'd be having a completely different conversation if Russell Westbrook was playing the shooting guard, which he won't play because he intimidates his head coach into not making him play it, which is another reason why he's overrated.
Well, again, if Oklahoma City ever gets a 2 guard, let me know, because they haven't had a 2 guard since they
If
drafted
Oklahoma
Russell
City
Westbrook.
ever gets a point guard and convinces Russell Westbrook to give the ball up, let me know. Because he's not.
I mean, that's a generic statement. When your 2 guard, here's the thing: you can get a guy, call him a point guard. If he can hit the three, he helps space the floor. You can get a guy, call him a shooting guard. If he could hit the three, he can space the floor. Right now, Oklahoma has guys that don't take more than a couple threes a game and don't make a large amount of threes. They need a knockdown shooter who could play some defense at the guard position with Russell Westbrook. Is that person going to handle the ball? Is the problem that Russell Westbrook can't bring the ball up the floor? Is the problem that he can't run pick and roll? Is the problem that
Oh,
he doesn't give the ball up and let Paul George do his thing? No. So the
no.
shooting guard thing is completely
It's
irrelevant.
not it's not
It's about who
it's
you
a
get
skill
to
versus
spread the
will thing.
floor for OKC.
It's a
OKC
skill
is
versus
the
will thing.
only playoff team that is dedicated to not hitting no threes, and they need to change it.
It's a skill versus will thing. It's not. Russell Westbrook is one of the most physically talented players I've ever seen. So it has nothing to do with skill or ability. It's about will. It's a skill versus will thing. Everybody on their job has a certain part of the thing, a certain part of their responsibilities that they are responsible for. If they fail at any portion of those responsibilities, you ask yourself, is this a skill issue? Is it something that they just cannot do? Or is it something that they're not willing to do? Russell Westbrook's not willing to run the point guard in a way that is best suited for winning. He's not.
And
And,
this is where your
and
argument becomes real sad because
you know where it becomes a reality? He don't have no championships. And he's had the talent. And he's played with the players. That's where it becomes real.
how many point guards in the top 5 have championships?
Steph
Mm-hmm.
has a championship. Kyrie has a championship.
Mm-hmm. And that's it. So apparently everybody garbage except Steph and Kyrie, if that's your
No,
criteria.
that's not true because all of them haven't played with the same talent that Russell Westbrook has played. And I'm not even saying that this team should have won the championship, but this team
Russell
should
Westbrook
not
has
have
never
been
played
losing
on a
in
team
five
favored to
games.
win the championship.
They
He
should
has
not
never
have been
played on
losing
a
in
team with
5
the
games.
most talent in the
They
NBA.
should not
Ever.
have been losing in 5 games. They should not have been
Well,
losing in 5 games.
again, with Paul George being hurt, they gave up. Here's the thing: Dame beat them on a game winner in Game 5, a half court game winner. Great shot to him, but a half court step back to win the game, and the fact that you basically didn't have Paul George for Game 1 because he shot horribly, and you are down Abrinas and down Robertson. It's not like I didn't say this stuff before the series started. That was my prediction for the series. That if Paul George isn't magically better, they're gonna have some serious problems. And you said, I think Paul George is fine. And I'm like, not if you watch the games. He ain't looked like Paul George since the All-Star break. And lo and behold, he came out, told everybody, I haven't been able to lift my arms for 4 days, so I ain't shoot the ball until I got here.
He looked good in game
OKC
5.
is too shallow offensively to not have Paul George healthy and beat anybody in the West.
This team should not have lost in 5. That's all I said. Should not have lost in 5. And Russell Westbrook is an overrated player. I'm not saying he's not a good player. He is, but he is not that top tier point guard that makes his team that much better.
And my
He
thing has,
fell
and
in love.
I'm not
And
changing my
here's what I'm
argument.
talking about. You say,
Yeah.
let you finish. You say,
Okay, no, you have more. You have more.
You
sound like you're repeating yourself.
No. Just because you don't listen. That's the problem. You'll get better at that. But listen, this is the thing.
Promise I won't.
Russell Westbrook is the issue with Russell Westbrook is that he is not he's a trap player. He's a trap player. He's the type of player that is so dynamic. He is so athletic. He is so spectacular that it is easy to get fooled into thinking that, man, this is a guy I can build around. But the fact of the matter is the way that he plays, the way he approaches things, the way he operates, period, is not a way that makes guys better. Who that Russell Westbrook is playing with or has played with is better because they played
Paul
with
George
Russell
had the
Westbrook.
best stretch of his career this year.
Who said who?
Paul George. He had the best stretch of his career
Paul
until he got hurt.
Paul George was a freak of nature before that.
He was never a top 3 MVP candidate before this year.
Dude.
And here's the thing, we discussed this on the show, and you didn't even argue the point. Russell Westbrook was spoon feeding him a lot of those situations. He was occupying the best defender a lot of those situations. But here's the thing, I don't want to get into that. The main thing with OKC, my argument has been the same since Kevin Durant was there. Get shooters, Sam Presti. Get shooters on this team, as my man Jay Battle said in the chat. You can't win in this league without shooting. OKC is one of the worst shooting teams in the league from the three-pointer. They have guys that literally will go a game and just cannot hit. They have no depth at the shooting. They have no knockdown shooters outside of Paul George. He's the only person you can expect to get you over 40% shooting. They need real shooters who can also defend. Until they get that, I do not expect success out of OKC.
I'm not saying that they don't need shooters. I've never said that. My statement was that Russell Westbrook's overrated. It has nothing that I'm not evaluating their entire team. That's not even the argument. The argument is that he's overrated. I don't think that anybody can dispute that. I don't think anybody can dispute that.
I just proved you wrong in front of
you didn't
all
prove
of our people.
What? Because Jason Battle has posted 19 times.
Look, man, I appreciate the intelligence and wisdom of our community. I'm glad that between me and them, there's some basketball people in here who know what they're talking about.
Is he the jury?
You know, I got so many smart people in the chat. It's awesome.
I missed that. All I
love the fact that we have a hardcore, intelligent basketball community that's willing to put up with what you say just to hear it proven wrong. But at the end of the day, right now, no one has Russ rated above, Kyrie and Dame and Steph and James Harden, and some people would say CP3. So he's not overrated because everybody's killing him, and they've been killing him.
Nah.
Like he's the most killed player in the league for a while now.
Nah, I like I said,
you put D'Angelo Russell against it up ahead of him, and D'Angelo Russell so far not a great playoff series. He played a little D in the playoffs, but don't play no D throughout the year. I love D'Angelo Russell, but he's not better than Russell Westbrook right now. You put Russell Westbrook on the Nets, they'd probably beat Philly.
I take Russell Westbrook. I take D'Angelo Russell over Russell Westbrook every day of the week.
Going forward, we'll see. I love D'Lo, but right now, I definitely wouldn't put him above Russell.
Yeah,
I do love D'Lo. So.
My man Tay Shakir says, "Man, Westbrook isn't what people think he is."
But you know what that means? What's he saying? Is he talking about you, people who hating on him, that say he's the most selfish guy ever?
I don't know.
That he's a cancer that can't make his teammates better, despite evidence to the contrary?
I don't know. I don't know what he's saying, but I know what I'm saying.
Well, I'm saying we got more topics to go to. What we got?
Yeah, we do, but he's still overrated. So the next question is, what's with the Golden State Warriors? What's going on? I mean, they dropped another game at home to a team that they should probably, at the most, had beaten in five.
Yeah.
But now we go into game six back in LA.
Honestly, I just think that they're not taking the Clippers all that seriously, and the Clippers are um nah, stick around, Jay. We gonna be Jay already left. Um I think the Clippers are a hard fighting team, really well coached. They have a lot of guys who can play basketball. They got a lightning scorer coming off the bench in Lou Williams, and you have to take them as seriously as you would take the Houston Rockets. And they're not. And if you look at the games that they've lost so far, these are all games that had Golden State focused up a little more. They were winnable. They lost a freak game, 31-point lead. They shouldn't have lost that game. The series would be over in 5 if they'd won that game, obviously. So they're fine. They're fine. I expect the Warriors to be 100% fine. Um, Clay's fine. I think Draymond's fine. They'll be great. I think it's much ado about nothing. They let a couple slip. They probably gonna beat them by 75 next game.
I think they will beat them more. They'll beat them in game six, but I don't think it's much ado about nothing. I think that they are showing some serious signs of success fatigue. And I think that losing Boogie is a bigger deal than people think. And it's not about what they do on the floor. It's not about that. They need another element on their team who has not won, who is driving the hunger, who can also be a a buffer between Draymond Green and Kevin Durant and anybody else whose face he might get into when things don't go right.
Nah, this is a
And
classic case of playing down to your competition, which the Warriors, in their boredom, have been more prone to do now than before because they've done it all. They've won over 70 games. They've been, I mean, they were the number one seed still this year, even in a year where they had a lot of losses they shouldn't have had. And I do think that when it comes to playing against the best teams, they same way they lost to the Clippers and they shouldn't have. They could lose to Milwaukee or Houston or Toronto if and when they shouldn't, right? I don't think they can lose to any other team. I don't think Boston or Philly or anybody else has the ability to beat Golden State. Even if Golden State's playing like their B minus game, I think they beat everybody else. But if they show up with their B minus game against one of those teams I mentioned, they could lose. I don't think they show up with their B minus game in the face of James Harden because your opponent's hunger brings out your hunger a lot of the time. And I think looking across at Pat Beverly and Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell, the L is silent. They just like they hoping to just sleepwalk and get the series over with. And Doc Rivers and his crew ain't about that. Pat Beverly ain't trying to let you get him over with. You got to kill him. You got to stake him right through the heart and leave him with no chance of winning. That's how that team is built. And they're just suffering from that. When they play against the Houston Rockets in the next round, I don't imagine this will be a serious problem. Although I think the Houston Rockets are better than they were last year. And I think the Warriors are in some ways weaker than they were last year. I think Izzy's a year older. Draymond's had his worst year in a while. They have some depth issues. I'm not sure if against a team the quality of Houston, picking up Bogut is as positive of an acquisition as you need. Although, they've had a lot of role players have some good games this year, and I think those guys can show up and do some stuff. But yeah, I have every confidence the Warriors should win another championship. I don't think it's serious trouble. I don't think they're unbeatable the way they've been in the past, not because of them, but because the rest of the league has gotten a lot better.
yeah, I picked from the beginning that I did not think that the Warriors were going to win it all. So I'm sticking to that prediction. I even more, I'm even more in that direction now. I don't think that they're going to win. I think that Houston. First of all, I think Houston had them beat last year. I think if Chris Paul doesn't go down, the Rockets would have beaten them last year.
I mean, that's
Uh,
a big old if.
there it is.
Steph would drop 50 on Chris Paul's lip in a heartbeat. He'd done it
Yeah, but
before.
Steph will
He'd do
also,
it again.
one thing that I think is not really being recognized right now is we're concentrating on this battle, this intensity battle, and this back and forth between Patrick Beverly and Kevin Durant. But Where's Steph matching the intensity, matching the guy who actually plays his position's intensity? Where is he in that? And I know that Patrick Beverley's spending a lot of time defensively guarding Kevin Durant, but I'm wondering where's Steph with this? Steph, it seems, when I look at him, he doesn't seem as engaged as he has been in previous years. It's just something looks off. He's rebounding out of his mind, which is kind of weird. But and I understand why he is, because of just the way that the Clippers are the way, just the way the the floor setup is. I understand why he's getting more rebound opportunities, but he just doesn't look as engaged to me. And that's not the reason why I think that they're going to lose. I stated the reason why. I think that they are suffering from success fatigue, and it's not anything that's voluntary. What it is when you win so consistently, it is tiring every single night going against people who every single time you play them, you're everybody's game 7 of the NBA finals, no matter who it is, every single night. And that wears on a team. It wears on players. And that's why I think that having Boogie active was very important, because he hasn't won. He hasn't had this championship, but he is a significant enough presence to be a motivation and to be a driver. When you've won already, and when you already feel like your best player is 1 foot in and 1 foot out, subconsciously it becomes a little bit easier to say, you know what, we already got 3 championships. If we don't win this year, it's not going to be the end of the world. And I don't, like I
Yeah,
said,
I think you're
I don't think,
underestimating the Warriors.
hold on, what I'm saying, I don't think that you consciously say that out of your mouth. I don't think you say, you know what, I'm getting the meeting and I just say, I'm Clay Thompson, man, we won enough, man, it's okay. I don't think you consciously say that, but I think what happens is it starts to be apparent in your effort and in just the small things. And I think that you're looking at the Clippers are punking the Warriors right now. Literally, they're out that Patrick Beverly is more physical than almost every single player on the team. Montrezl Harrell is destroying guys on the inside with a very basic pick and roll, dive to the rim type game. They are they are they're literally showing more effort. They're playing harder than Golden State most times of the game. The reason why the games are as close as they are when the Clippers are winning is purely on talent. But the Clippers are playing harder than the Warriors. So I don't know, man. I think when we look at a team next in the next round, and this is I'm definitely saying the Warriors are going to move past the Clippers. But in the next round, when we had a team whose talent level is on par or closer to Golden State, who has not won, who is chock full of great, got outstanding players.
The only way Houston beats Golden State, and here's why I don't believe in them necessarily. Because the only way for Houston to beat Golden State is James Harden has to be what he was during the regular season at his best. And I don't think he has to play that way the entire game, but he needs to be able to turn that on. And that's something that's really I found admirable about Kyrie Irving. Is Kyrie Irving has been so insanely reliable in the clutch. Like it seems like he can just turn it on and just be the best offensive player in the world whenever you need him to, almost no matter how he's been playing. And when I say how he's been playing, I don't even mean bad or good. I mean passively or aggressively. I don't think he's gotten a lot of credit for that. With James, I need to see it from James in those high leverage moments. I need to see James guarded by Kevin Durant or Draymond on the perimeter, step back in their face and bop them 4 or 5 times in a row from three. I need to see him draw them fouls over and over and over in the fourth quarter. I need to see him shimmy against the Golden State Warriors 2 games in a row. That's what it is. And do I believe he can do that more than I believe that Steph gonna have a 40-point game, Clay gonna have a 40-point game, KD gonna have 2 40-point games, and that's gonna be the series? No, I don't believe that. And that's why I'm not worried about the Warriors. Yeah, they've been bored, they've been inattentive, but I think they will be at their best when they play against the best competition. And that's coming up in Houston, and whoever's in the Western Conference Finals. They're probably going to get a little bit of a break there. And then whoever they face coming out of the Eastern Conference, which might be their toughest opponent.
Yeah, they won't be in the Western Conference Finals. They will lose to Houston, and they're going to lose to Houston, and it's not going 7. It's
Okay.
not going 7. It's not going 7. It's going 6 more than likely.
That'd be interesting if it happens.
Yeah,
I need to see it though.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen. I just don't believe in what I see from the Warriors from an effort standpoint. It's too hard. It's too hard to motivate them right now. And one thing about it, and Shaq was talking about this on NBA on TNT. He was saying that it is difficult. He says sometimes veteran teams trick themselves and they say we can flip the switch. We can flip the switch when we need to. We can flip the switch when we need to. But when it comes time to flip the switch, you can't. You can't because you tell yourself and you lie to
I
yourself
feel
that
you on
you can
that,
keep
but that's
going.
something
But
that I
hold on,
look
hold
at.
on, hold on,
Okay,
hold
go
on,
ahead, go
hold
ahead.
on. You tell yourself that you tell yourself that you can do this. And because we've done it before, we've won before, blah, 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 blah. But you can't. And when it comes time to do it, you cannot do it. And now you're either losing to a team that you shouldn't be losing to, or you're having a much harder time with an opponent that you shouldn't be having that hard time with. And this mostly happens after a long stretches of winning.
And normally I would think that applies, but since the Warriors were the number one seed in the West and the second best overall seed in the league. And well, actually, I think they might have had a worse record than Toronto. Maybe they had the third best overall record in a season where they were incorporating Boogie Cousins, and they were pretty bad with Boogie by their standards when they first started up. Their defense took a serious nosedive. They were completely free to the pick and roll, and even with that, they still wound up with the first seed in the West. I don't put the flip the switch thing on them. I think the standard for Golden State is so high that people expect them to win 67, 69 games every year. And for them, that's just not important anymore. The one thing I would be concerned about for Golden State is extending a series against a physical team opens you up to them bumps and bruises that could bite you in the butt against a team like Houston Rockets. Steph and I think KD both had minor lower extremity injuries towards the end of the season, and they could. This is just more of that happening, particularly with Beverly going after you. And he dirty. I mean, yeah, I mean
Hey, you from
he
Chicago?
dirty. He's dirty as an old pair of drawers.
We
So.
come from he from Chicago. We do what we gotta do.
So if Beverly ain't going down with a fight, he might do something that puts somebody at risk, and that would be the real concern if they go into the next round not as healthy as they could have. But this could also just be the wake up call that they need. That's the flip side of it, is that
Yeah.
this could get them all on the same page. So I ain't worried about them.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, maybe they will turn it around. I mean, would I be the most shocked person in the world if they turned it around and played like they're absolutely capable of playing? No, I wouldn't be. Um, it could be something just purely stylistic. Some things that schematically that the Clippers do on defense, and and I don't ever want to minimize the mental aspect of this because at this level and at this stage of the season it really is a lot about mentality. And that was part of what I was talking about with Westbrook. I just don't think he has the right mentality. And right now, the Warriors, I question their mentality right now. Not overall, but right now. I question their mentality for winning another championship in this climate with the teams that they're going to have to beat in order to do it. But we'll find out. So the next series or the next situation or NBA playoff conversation is, are the Spurs dead though? Now they're down 3-2, and actually they're playing right now
Up
and
up by 5.
up by 5. Going into the fourth quarter at home. They have pretty much owned the Nuggets in San Antonio, with the exception of the game this series. But for the most part, they have owned the Nuggets on the road, and the Nuggets haven't been very good on the road overall. We talked about that
Mm-hmm.
before too. So it will. I don't know. It looks like they're probably going to game 7, but it's only a 5-point game and going into the fourth quarter. So there's an eternity of time left. Where they're up 8 now. So just trying to 3. So they're up 8 with 11:06 left in the fourth. So I don't know. Clearly, when I wrote this when I wrote this segment of the show, it was before the game had started, and they were facing elimination. So now they look like they might be pushing it to game 7, but can they win again in Denver? That's the question now.
I mean, there's no reason they can't win in Denver again. They have the ability. Will they? This is the problem with the Nuggets. It entirely depends on two of their shooters getting hot, because San Antonio, DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge are probably going to be pretty good against the Nuggets. Um, and they're probably going to get one or two guys hitting shots, and they're probably going to make the game hard on those smaller guards. So it really depends on if the Nuggets get hot. If the Nuggets get hot for long enough, they'll win. It reminds me a little bit of Philly versus Brooklyn, where Brooklyn had to get hot, and Joe Harris wound up going 0 for 12 from three-point. He's best three-point shooter in the league this year. That's why they lost. If Philly's feeling real good about themselves, they shouldn't, because they gave a whole bunch of open shots to the best three-point shooter in the league. And when you play Toronto or Milwaukee or Boston, that's going to hurt. Same thing with this series. When Denver wins, it's because they make shots. It's a make or miss series from their perspective. San Antonio is going to be consistent. They can win, but I think it's a really hard series to pick, to be honest with you, because it's
Yeah,
shooting versus experience.
yeah, and I think it was one of the harder series to pick from the beginning. I did lean towards the Spurs. I picked them to win the series. Um, I did not expect them to lose at home, though. That was what I thought was going to be the biggest thing. I didn't think they would drop a game at home. And dropping a game at home, it was game three, especially the way they dropped it, because they started out and the Nuggets looked horrible. They looked horrible coming out. And then Jamal Murray caught fire
Yeah.
and kind of flipped the switch and turned everything around, because they looked like they were headed down a really bad path, and they were going to be in a situation where they just weren't going to be able to come back from.
And
But
that's why it's hard to be confident in Denver, because it feels like the wins that they've had, two of the wins they've had in this series, have been like things went your way. I don't feel like they have proven that they have a game plan that is consistent for beating the Spurs four times. They hit shots. They don't need a game plan that's consistent for beating the Spurs four times. But if they don't hit shots, I don't know what their fallback plan is.
yeah, if they don't, if they I mean, if because knocking down shots at the clip in which they can knock them down, I don't want to say it takes the coaching out, but it makes that coaching aspect less meaningful. It's not as big of a deciding factor in the game, because they're playing more loose. They're taking shots even before they get into set offenses, and I mean, they're getting early offense out of it, so they're not getting an opportunity to scheme around it as much. And then it comes down to, are the Spurs knocking down shots? Because if the Spurs are missing, their misses are turning into semi-transition threes or transition threes, and if they're knocking those down, then there's a problem. But I think that's the biggest key, is for the Spurs to be as efficient as possible on offense, and to increase their amount of second chance points. I have to look at the statistics, but I would be shocked if they've lost any games where they've controlled or had had at least 16 to 18 second chance points in the series. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that's really key for them. And if they are able to do that, I think they are able to beat them in seven. But we'll find out. They are up 11 right now, and so it looks like they're doing all right. Actually, they only have 6 offensive rebounds today, but they are killing it from the field. They're shooting 60% from the field. And then of course the Nuggets are not knocking down threes, 5 of 20 from three.
Yeah.
They flat can't win like that. They flat cannot win that way. So and they're getting like almost nothing off the bench. They got 9 points off the bench, but it's not even that they only have 9 points. It's the ineffective shooting that they're getting. A Miles, I mean, Mason Plumlee is 1 for 2.
Here's the danger for Denver. The Spurs have a lot of role players who can erupt for 20 on you. And because Aldridge and DeRozan have advantages in this series offensively, like no one can stop DeRozan from posting up and hitting turnarounds in this series. And same thing, obviously, for Aldridge, he can score 60 points against the team if he wants to. All you need is a Patty Mills three-pointers in a row stretch, and you might be cooked. So that's why I say it's a hard series to call, because it really is a make or miss series. And this just goes to show what we were saying before. When you have 3-point shooters, you have a chance. And Denver has 3-point shooters, but they need those guys to hit shots real bad.
Yeah, again, Rudy Gay is having that game off the bench today. He's got
Yes.
17 points off the bench, 3 for 3 from 3-point range, 17
And one
points.
of the games they lost, Rudy Gay missed a bunch of layups. So
Yeah,
you know what I'm
17
saying?
points.
Like that's what I'm saying. Like when Denver wins, I'm not really sold yet. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah. I don't know. It's just I don't. I just couldn't picture Denver winning this series initially. They definitely have made it seem more realistic, but we'll see. We'll see. All right, moving on. Let's move to the Eastern Conference is already set. Everybody knows we already know what the matchups are in the Eastern Conference. The Bucks and the Celtics. What's your thoughts on Bucks Celtics?
Well, I was saying all year, the Bucks have the best player in that series, and offensively, I'm not sure who in the playoffs is a better second option. Chris Middleton versus Jason Tatum. Now, Marcus Smart is still hurt, and Brogdon hasn't played yet, but they did get Mirotic back. Mirotic could make this series unwinnable for Boston because going back to what I was saying before, when you bring shooting off the bench, and that shooting is consistent and that guy can play a little bit of D, you don't get a break. It's the same thing as the backup point guard position, which is why I thought George Hill was a significant acquisition for that team because he was a backup point guard insurance policy. When you get a guy who has either started or has starting level talent and you bring him off the bench, it's a really, really different look. And I don't think Boston has any answers for Antetokounmpo. I think Budenholzer's a great coach. And compared to what they were dealing with last year, they're in a much better position to I don't want to say out coach the Celtics, but out coach them according to what they have. They're in a position to get the most out of what they have and take some things away. And as great as Kyrie Irving has been this season, I think it's a tough position for him to be in to go against the guys he has to go against to go against beating Bledsoe off the dribble and then dealing with Antetokounmpo and Brook Lopez at the rim. And if you miss, Antetokounmpo gets a dunk or somebody else a three. That's that's really tough for the Celtics who can go through droughts. They're shooting three pretty well in the postseason, but we'll see how that holds up against Milwaukee. If they shoot the three well, that changes the dynamic of the team. And the X factor, as we discussed in earlier shows, is definitely Gordon Hayward. Because if
Yes.
they have Gordon, if he can be an 18 point per game guy throughout the series, that gives them some relief and some ability to match Milwaukee because Milwaukee defends well and scores well. And one of their ways of scoring, really two, you can't do nothing about. You can't do nothing about Brook Lopez hitting threes because he's too tall, he's too far from the rim, and he's dragging the help that you have for Antetokounmpo away from the rim. You just kind of have to let that go sometimes. Bledsoe driving is also tough to deal with for the same reason, and obviously Giannis, nothing has slowed him down all year. He's been an absolute monster, wire to wire, all year. And I don't expect Kyrie Irving to have a good game every single game. If Giannis has a good game every game, I'm not surprised at all. If he scores 20 points, 27 points or better, gets 12 or better rebounds every single game, wouldn't surprise me a bit.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm really interested in seeing who is going to get the primary defensive assignment for Giannis. That's what I'm because whoever it is needs help, right?
Hmm.
But I'm interested in seeing who gets the primary assignment. Honestly, I would I would really strongly consider putting Al Horford on him. Uh, a lot. And the reason why I say that is because obviously he's much quicker. Obviously he can beat him off the dribble. But what I'm thinking is I want somebody guarding him who can at least be to try to drain some energy out of him with some physicality. Because no matter what you do, he's going to have a physical advantage over somebody. Because if you get somebody out there who supposedly is able to stay with him from a speed standpoint, he's going to overpower him. If he's a big guy, he's going to run around him. But I would at least rather having a veteran big who is able to at least put body on him. Now, I understand you can only do that for so long because you can't afford to get Al Horford in serious foul trouble. So you got
That's
to
the key.
watch that. You got to
Foul
watch
trouble is the
that.
key.
You got to watch that. But I think that whenever you're guarding somebody, there's really nobody like Giannis. But when you're guarding a guy like him, it has to be a by committee thing. No one guy can stay on him all game, that or the majority of the time, even. But in key situations, I think that because if you look at it, if with Brook Lopez staying so far away from the basket, there's really no reason to commit a big to him. He's all the way out there.
There is actually. There is because when Giannis goes up a lot of times, Brook Lopez will come in and crash the offensive rebound. And you have no choice when that happens. Or Brook Lopez will fake the shot and drive and get himself a bucket going to the basket. And with a smaller guy on him, I mean, he's just taking one step inside and jumping and throwing up a hook shot. And the thing is, that doesn't have to happen a lot because of how much the ball is in Middleton and Bledsoe and Giannis's hands. You only need 4 of them plays in the game to feel like it's happening 20 times. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
And
yeah, I think like you were saying, there's certain things you got to live with, and I would rather live with Brook Lopez putting the ball on the floor from the 3-point line and taking a smaller defender off the dribble and throwing in a hook shot than I would having a big struggling to get out there to him after I try to help because Giannis just dog walked the small guy inside the lane for a dunk. And in order for me to stop, kicks it out. So now you got the big in purgatory trying to figure out, do I help or do I stay with Brook Lopez? I would prefer, to me, there's more room for error on Milwaukee's side if I'm forcing Brook Lopez to put the ball on the floor, get to a certain area, because now I'm asking Brook Lopez to move off the dribble, which is not his strong suit. I'm also asking him to potentially pass out of a double team if I send help in the event that he does start to overpower the guard. So I'm asking him to do a couple of things that are not his A1. So, like I said, it's not as if it's not a situation he cannot have success in, but you always taking the lesser of two evils. And for me, that one would be the one I would deal with. All of that said, I got Milwaukee. I do
yeah,
think I
I
think
think this can be a close series because Boston is a smart team. They can play elite defense sometimes. Like Boston sometimes plays stellar defense. The problem is, you mentioned it earlier, usually Al Horford has a defensive plus matchup on the other team's big. Like he's the best defender on Embiid I've seen,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But on Giannis, I don't think that's the case. Giannis don't care nothing about no Al Horford. He
Yeah.
just don't.
Yeah.
He
Giannis is
just
going to get it. Giannis is going to get his to a degree. The only
well, it's
thing
not about
is going to
his.
make it
It's
hard.
about those plays where Giannis is in the paint and there's 3 people in the paint with him and he passes out to shooters. Or those plays where you lean in on him and Brook Lopez and Eric Bledsoe gets hot. Because Eric Bledsoe can get you 25 points.
Yeah.
You know, you can't let, that's the thing, that's what makes Milwaukee so dangerous. Is they have so many shooters. You can't let those guys get hot. If they get hot, now it becomes a team where Jay Battle is saying, you know, you need somebody else who can get you 30. I don't think that's necessarily the case when you have a bunch of guys who can make plays and hit threes and get fouled. Because then when you get 18 from this guy, 18 from that guy, 18 from that guy, like Milwaukee fields a team of 5 players where everybody can wind up with 15 or more points. You know what I mean? They
Yeah.
don't have no Jeremy Grants on their team.
No, no. I mean, they are a far more complete team overall. Than most teams, which is the reason why they're my pick. That I mean, Milwaukee's my pick to win the championship.
Hmm.
I don't think that there's a team. It's hard for me to see them losing 4 games.
And
If it
I
happens,
don't think that's a dumb pick. I don't think that's a dumb pick because according to basically every measure, Milwaukee's the best team in the league. The thing that makes Milwaukee unique, and I'm arguing a little bit with Jay Battle in the chat here, is you have to commit 2 people to Giannis. And they have 4 people who can shoot. And people have been knocking Giannis all year that he can't shoot. And my thing is, I would rather have a guy get everybody else open shots than be a guy who can shoot, right?
mm-hmm.
James Harden, if he makes shots, he's one thing. If he's missing shots, they in trouble. Giannis is always Giannis. Literally, he's always a problem. If you don't commit 2, sometimes 3 people, and he'll dunk anyway, depending on who you committed and how he's feeling at the moment, how long his Greek step was. But you have to, he will literally dunk on you every single time. You know what I mean? And they defend well. So it's not like you're going to go to the other end and get your 3 to their 2, like against Philly. Philly can't defend guards. So you can play 3 to their 2 and just beat them mathematically. You can't beat Milwaukee mathematically.
They have something of a mismatch at 3 to 4 positions,
Yeah.
like almost all the time.
Because I
Almost
don't I
all.
don't love Kyrie Irving guarding Eric Bledsoe. I
No, I
don't
don't
love it.
love that. I mean, because
I don't like it. Like when Marcus Smart
I'm
down,
trying
that
to say,
sucks.
who is Kyrie going to guard? He's got to guard Bledsoe. There's nobody else to guard.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because if Middleton gets him in the post, that's basically a layup.
It's so I'm actually very interested in seeing how well is Kyrie going to hold up at the end of games from a stamina standpoint. Because if I'm the Bucks, I'm going at him. I'm going at him. I'm going at him all the time. And so, I mean, because I know that he's their most consistent offensive player. And
There's two chances I think Boston has to win the series. One is experience and poise. They have a lot of guys who've played a lot of playoff games and they're not going to panic, right? Including the young guys, which is rare. And one thing I love about Jason Tatum, he's cool as a cucumber. The
yeah,
guy appears to, he feels very confident player, and
hmm,
you need that, right? Kyrie, I totally believe in him. If Gordon Hayward continues to improve, he can get you buckets. I don't think they have enough consistent scoring, but if Brad Stevens defensively can figure out a way to get Milwaukee to go through droughts that come from not just them being cold, but from you doing something, it's something you can do, particularly when Giannis sits down. Then they can have a chess match of Giannis playing too many minutes because he hasn't played a lot of minutes this year, which is one of the amazing things about him. Is he's basically again, I don't know what he's like 33 minutes a game,
yeah,
and he's the most of highest PER or whatever. It's crazy. Um, but if you can get Giannis on the floor more than he needs to be, maybe he'll be tired in the fourth quarter, and he can't do that. So they have to win the bench battle. And Boston's deep, so that's feasible.
yeah. I don't know, man. I just, I mean, I still got respect for Brad Stevens, and I still understand that it's very possible we can see Jason Tatum have the series in his career, like the series that makes him the guy that people think he can be. I think that's possible, and I also think that Gordon Hayward is trending in a certain direction, right? Um, so I'm not saying it's totally impossible. There's no way in the world they're going to lose in four, but all of that considered, having the option of giving it to a guy who absolutely just makes everybody on the floor so much better, makes everybody on the floors just he's so efficient in his possessions that I don't know, man. I just
Yeah, for me, it comes down to when 49 win teams beat 60 win teams. There's usually some other factor. Some
mhm,
guys coming back from injury. We have that a little bit in Gordon Hayward. I don't think he's that much of a difference, particularly with Marcus Smart going down. Or the lower seeded team has the best player, right? In this case, they don't have the best player. And a 49 team, 40, and I think Giannis is significantly a better basketball player than Kyrie Irving.
yes,
So I think that makes it really tough to be the underdog. I don't think Milwaukee's a regular season team. I think they're a playoff team. I think
mhm,
they're built to win in the playoffs. I mean, the ritual sacrifice that was the Detroit Pistons series. Say what you want about the Pistons, but they did what they were supposed to do to the Pistons and more. It looked like they didn't have a chance.
right,
They looked like they were almost from two different leagues. Like Milwaukee just beat them to death and rested people.
right. No, one hundred
They were
percent.
never threatened.
Yeah, it looked like a 1-8, and that's the
Yeah,
way a 1-8 supposed to look.
yeah.
Um, all right, so the next series, Raptors and the 76ers.
Very
Um,
interesting series. Your
I think it's
boy Jimmy Butler.
yeah, I think it's fascinating. Kawhi Leonard, Jimmy Butler is a fascinating matchup.
I agree.
It is
I
just
agree. I actually think Jimmy Butler is the best. If the 76ers win this series, I think Jimmy Butler is the key
mhm,
because Jimmy Butler is a guy you can put on Kawhi Leonard to match him, and he doesn't have to match him perfectly because you have Joel Embiid and Tobias Harris, who played much better in the Nets series as the series went on. They're going to need that from him, 100%. Um, but yeah, I think the 76ers, and if Kyle Lowry doesn't play well, And Fred VanVleet's been pretty consistent, but if Lowry doesn't play well, that helps you out a little bit with that guard disadvantage that the Sixers have. And this is the one team where you have a guy who's basically 75, 80% of Kawhi Leonard, and you can just kind of neutralize the Kawhi factor. Now, it should be said that Toronto was basically the best team in the league when Kawhi didn't play. So, and the bench battle is heavily in Toronto's favor, like heavily in their favor. Toronto is putting a playoff team on the floor when they sit their starters, and the 76ers, when, the best thing they have going for them is that Ben Simmons gives you a really nice second team you can run without Embiid on the floor. I like that team with a bunch of shooters around Ben Simmons. That puts him in a better light. But overall, their depth is not there, and quite frankly, Toronto can just shoot them out of the series.
And one of the people who I think is a really key for this series outside of the Jimmy Butler Kawhi Leonard matchup is Pascal Siakam, because I think that he's the rare lean defender who can give Ben Simmons a little bit of an issue. Because for me, if I'm Toronto, that's who's guarding Ben Simmons. I'm putting Siakam on Ben Simmons, and I'm going to live with a smaller guy on Tobias Harris. And one of the main reasons I'm doing that is because the 76ers have not proven that they can get the ball to Tobias Harris effectively, even when he has mismatches. I looked at that in the Brooklyn series, and I
Mm-hmm.
felt like he did not get the type of touches that he needed to get. I mean, you traded for this guy, and as for him to be like your kind of missing piece sort of thing, but he didn't get that kind of love and didn't get those types of touches. So I don't know. I think that the Raptors have the type of defensive presence to answer all or most of the 76ers best offensive weapons. Now, Embiid and Jimmy Butler are just fantastic players. So they're going to have games where they play well here and there. But I think Siakam, Kawhi Leonard, Marc Gasol, those kinds of guys. I think that from a defensive standpoint, also with the way just their defensive approach, I think ultimately that buckles 70, buckles Philly. Philly struggles to score. I also, this is another team, because I keep harping on this, and I've harped on this in more than one series. The mentality is very important, especially at this time of the year. And the 76ers are the type of team that I can see imploding when they get to a point. If the 76ers go down 2-0, you might as well mail in the next you might as well mail in the rest of the series, because they don't have the type of leadership that is going to be able to pull them out of that sort of a situation. So I got
I
Toronto.
think that's fair. I think all of that is fair. When you look at the brains over in Toronto, you talk about Marc Gasol, Kyle Lowry, Kawhi Leonard, Nick Nurse, and also just their upper
Mm,
management. You have a lot of just experience. You have a lot of intelligence. And Toronto, when you look at them as a basketball team, like if you just took the names off the jersey and just watched how people pass the ball,
yeah.
you talk about extra pass,
Yes.
getting good
They
shots,
play the right way.
taking the shots you're supposed to take. When a team plays the right way and has a top flight one-on-one scorer like Kawhi Leonard, and I think Kawhi is nearly as good as it gets, to be honest with you. Like Kawhi flipped that Kobe Michael switch, and at the end of a game, he just get any kind of bucket you need.
Yeah, I
Step
mean,
back three between
he
the
doesn't
legs, claw on top of your head, post up,
he
whatever
doesn't
you want.
he doesn't get the love that he deserves for that aspect of his game, because it's not flashy. But if you look at how effective he is in those types of situations, he's every bit as good as the top players in must score situations, because he's able to get just about whatever type of shot he wants. And 1989 just made a point that I was thinking while you were talking. It is very Spurs like the way they
Yeah,
play.
oh, for sure. Well, they got two Spurs, right?
Yeah.
And they were already set up like that. And Marc Gasol, he's in that vein. He made a great point. Tay Shakir made a great point about Danny Green shooting lights out. The Spurs a lot of times went as Danny went. When Danny was hot, Spurs was a championship team. When Danny was cold, Spurs were very beatable. And if Danny Green is hitting his shot, he's exactly the kind of player like if OKC had Danny Green, they beat Portland in five. You know what I'm saying? Um, It's just too much. It's too much consistency on the three and the defense. So I think in this situation, Toronto has the advantage. Philly has so much talent that you have to give them a puncher's chance. But I think the fact that they have so little depth against a team that has a lot of depth, I think Kawhi Leonard is probably the best player in the series. Although Joel Embiid is fantastic, he is still not in great shape, and the team is not constructed well around him.
No.
Uh, I thought New Jersey's best chance to win was when Simmons and Embiid were playing together. They just couldn't hit no shots, right?
Yeah.
Against Toronto, that's not a great situation. So yeah, I think Toronto's in the advantage in the series. They should win in 6 or 7. But if Philly won, would I be shocked? I have to say a little bit. I'd be a little shocked if Philly won. I'd be a
Yeah.
little shocked and pretty disappointed if Philly won. Not in Philly winning, but in the fact that Toronto, that would seem like a choke.
Yeah, oh, it would be a choke. I think it would absolutely be a choke. I think this is, and I know that when you look at the seeds, that it shouldn't be. It shouldn't look as though it's a choke. But Toronto is a better basketball team
Yeah.
than the 76ers, and they should win the series. So that's my pick. But let's shift from some NBA playoffs and start talking about Madden 20. The first information just dropped on Madden 20 today. And so they talked about the cover athlete. And I had written an article talking about who might be the cover athlete. And I thought it might be time for defensive player, but it was pretty predictable. Patrick Mahomes is the cover guy. The Chiefs had a great season. But they dropped something different that they well, first of all, there's a few things that are different. This is the earliest release in like Madden history, I'm pretty sure. The official release date is August the 2nd.
That's early.
That's really early, really, because we're usually looking at the third August, at the third Tuesday in August. This and now the funny thing of it is if you pre-order it, you get it on July 30th.
Mm.
We're almost back to when NCAA football used to come out.
Yeah,
That
that's like
NCAA
E3
football used to
almost.
come out in July. So that's pretty significant. It's a little scary too, because I'm wondering that means that just that much more of a crunch was put on that development team to put this game out.
Now,
So
do you think it's a crunch, or do you think they gave them the resources to have that release?
I'm hoping that's the case.
Because I think specifically because of the Frostbite engine and because from a sports standpoint, they're doing great with it, they have more back end developers that they can dedicate to each sports game. And I wouldn't be surprised if they yank guys off of FIFA and NHL and even UFC, threw them onto Madden for a quote unquote crunch period and allowed them to be a lot more efficient. It fails in a game like Anthem where the infrastructure is not built up for that yet. But Frostbite's been in the sports games for a little bit right now, if you count all of the sports games. So I would imagine that the technical side of that is pretty sharp.
Well, honestly, I have a little bit of a different take on Frostbite and its impact on sports games. I don't think it's been positive. I don't think that it's a
I
good
didn't say
match.
it was positive. I just said it's efficient. I
Yeah,
don't. I
yeah.
don't know if
I
I
mean,
call it negative either, but
yeah. I don't. I haven't dug it. I really haven't. And I waited. I wanted to give them a few years with it across more than one game to kind of see where they were going with it. And yeah, I haven't. I put it like this: I think that it has been overblown because I don't think that there's been a ton that I can see from that's a difference. Not visually, not from an animation standpoint, certainly not from a collision detection
oh, you
standpoint.
must be talking about Madden. Have you met him?
You said I must be talking about who?
Madden. Have you met
Yeah,
him?
yeah. I mean, it just
Oh, does Madden look like he did last year?
yeah.
Weird.
It's pretty static at this point. So well, let's talk about the features though.
Yeah.
There is a single player campaign mode that they have coming out now. It's called Face of the Franchise QB1, and it's inspired by Patrick Mahomes. The most exciting part of this is that they incorporate some college football elements. You can choose between 10 actual college football universities, and you go through the actual college football playoff, which is they actually have the license for the college football playoff. So this is going to excite a lot of people
That
because
excites me. I'll
yeah,
tell
they
you what, because I really miss when I could load my NCAA franchise player into Madden. That was like the
yeah, that
best
was
thing.
great. It was great, and I loved being able to load the entire draft class from
Hmm.
a NCAA football, the graduating class, and make
Yeah,
them a
tell
rookie.
that whole story.
It was fantastic. It was one of the, like, back in the day, you could actually do that on NCAA Game Breaker and
Hmm.
NFL Game Day from Sony. They were like the first ones to ever do that, and then Madden picked it up after that.
Yeah.
But
Quick update, by the way. Denver got blasted by the Spurs. They lost by
yeah,
almost 20,
yeah, Jokic had a great game, but wasn't good enough.
which is bad news because that's exactly what we're saying. He could play as well as he could possibly play. They could still lose by 20.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that feature, it sounds great. You know what? Another really cool thing about that feature is that they have a dynamic scenario engine, right? Now, this is something that that fans of the My Career mode for 2K really need to listen up about, right? One of the biggest problems with a story mode, right, in a My Career or that type of concept is that everybody ends up experiencing the same thing. You all have to go and do the same cutscene. You all have to go and do this. Well, EA is saying that they have a scenario generator that will dynamically create different challenges, scenarios, different situations based off of what you do and what your player does. So essentially making it where no one's uh, single player campaign experience is the same. If that's the case, that's pretty fantastic. But I am being cautious with that because who knows if it's going to actually manifest itself in the way that it is originally being introduced. So we'll see.
Hmm.
The other thing that they have is something called Superstar X Factor. And so essentially all this is who remembers signature style from like NBA Live
Oh
and
yeah.
2K, where that's when they first implemented stuff like Steve Nash licking his fingers and James Harden stirring the pot and those different types of things. Even I don't know, even like Tim Hardaway's Killer Crossover, they have gameplay things and celebrations that are supposed to be designed to mimic the best players in the NFL to make them more stand out. That could totally be a feature that is more flash than substance. We got to see how it really breaks down. I don't know. Now, a key date. Here's a key date for Madden fans. May 23rd. May 23rd is a huge date. The reason why it's huge is because this is the day that they say that they are addressing legacy issues in the series. If you are a longtime Madden fan, then you know there are a lot of legacy issues in the game that have been there for I don't know how long, right? It's to the point where you just play around them, almost like going right on double dribble. You already know you're gonna make more mistakes right. So it's at that point. So we'll see. We'll see. I with Madden, man, I am the least trusting of new Madden features than I am for any other sports video game. When EA says that they have new things for Madden, I'm always like, okay, we'll see. And I'm not saying all of them are like underwhelming, but a lot
Hmm.
of times that's the case. Now with 2K, I know they mean for it to do what they say it's gonna do, but is it gonna work? Is the thing with 2K. Is it gonna work the way you said it's gonna work? With Madden, a lot of times that you end up seeing it and you like, this is even it works, but this is not even anything. This is not it. This is still the same game. So I don't know.
Well, the thing for me with Madden, it's hard for me to get hyped about Madden because I mean, really, this has been a problem since 2005, but I think it alleviated somewhat around the Madden 25th. Madden's not that fun. It's not that fun of a sports game. There's every video game, not just sports games, every video game, and we're going to get into this with Mortal Kombat, is supposed to have something that's just fun to do. I
Mhm,
always compare it to jumping in Mario. You
mhm,
play a Mario game and you simply jump, there's a little bit of pleasure that comes from it because it's designed well. It's just well tuned. What in Madden is fun? what's the one thing that's just fun to do? You could just do it over and over again, even if it wasn't, if there was no rest of the game. I don't feel like anything is what?
I was gonna say the only thing that I can think of in Madden that is like fun in that way is having the ball in the open field. Now, I'm not talking about when you are behind the line of scrimmage because that part of the game is very flawed. But
Hmm.
once you get the ball in open field and you're trying to elude tacklers, that part is fun.
You get a little bit of rush right there, right?
Yeah, that part's fun, but
Yeah,
almost everything else is in need
it's
of an
functional, but
yes.
it's in need of a fun grade,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes.
Everything else is functional, but it's not fun. We talk about UFC a lot. Now you play UFC 3. Um, Tell me, have you done this? Have you ever knocked somebody out faster than you thought and got up off your chair and walked around the room like he was a real person?
Yeah. Dude, I have so much literal fun with
Right.
EAFC that it's
Like
just,
when I was playing
Trey
career,
Sutton just said something. Hit stick used to be fun, but
yeah.
when they nerfed that, then yeah, that was there. And somebody else, Tay Shakir said that interceptions are fun. Interceptions are pretty fun,
Yeah.
especially when you're ball hawking and you take
Mhm.
control of the DB or you take control of the
Yeah.
linebacker
That's
and you jump.
rewarding.
Yeah, that's pretty fun. That's pretty fun.
But yeah, I think overall they have they're a lot. The game is, and they, I know they hate this comparison. So if any EA developers are getting a hold of our shows, we never know who's watching. I apologize. But what's missing is there's an organic quality to NFL 2K5 and All Pro Football that Madden has not attempted to bring in yet. The quality that is about inches, not feet. You know what I mean? The quality that I could juke somebody just a little bit. I don't have to fake him a whole character away. I can put enough touch on the pass to get it just barely over the shoulder or to the far shoulder or out over the defender's outstretched hands. It's just not subtle enough to make you feel like you're really in control and empowered. It's gotten better, but it's still not it yet. It doesn't have that fundamental fun quality. And we're not just trashing EA because I think goals in FIFA have more of that feeling of fun. And definitely UFC 3 has that feeling of fun. Literally, almost every part of the game brings some kind of joy when it comes to the mechanics of it. They just need to find the joy in the mechanics before I can really get truly excited about Madden. I'm always interested because I love football, but
You know,
it's just not there yet.
one of the things that gets me about Madden and even to this 2K for sure with this, I want and I know this is a lot about how many characters are on the screen, but and I'm gonna use a non-sports game as a reference. I remember I've played Tekken forever, right?
Yeah.
I've played it forever. Since the original, I played every one, I played it a lot, right?
Are you as bad as you are in the show in Mortal Kombat?
I'm actually pretty good at fighting games. I'm actually pretty good. Like
Oh,
I get pretty decent. I get good pretty quickly, or at least decent.
so you are down for at me bro lobby in Mortal
I am
Kombat.
that absolutely.
Okay, all
I'm
right.
down for a live stream of a Mortal Kombat match.
Oh, let's do it.
Yeah, I'm
Y'all
down.
heard it, people.
Yeah, I'm down. But what I like
Keep that same energy.
what what I like what I like with Tekken is after something happens, right? After somebody like sometimes the action moves so fast, like, wait a minute, what happened? Now, what did I get hit with? But
Uh-huh.
when the replay plays and it's slowed down, you go, oh, I barely missed
Right.
that spin kick and I got
Tekken's
caught with
very
that
good about
uppercut.
that.
Get very good with that.
Excellent point.
But Madden, something will happen that you thought was cool or you didn't understand what happened and you replay it and you're like, I still don't know what happened.
Right.
How
Right.
did he get that? How did that not, it misses like, and this is lending itself to the point that you were just talking about. Well, with it's about inches and not feet, because they need an element where I'm running with Saquon Barkley and there's a little small gap that I got to fit through and I'm able to hit the sticks in the exact right way and spin between two defenders. And I'm like, whoa, when it happens. And I go ahead and I run for my touchdown, or I run and I get tackled, pushed out of bounds, whatever happens. But then I run back that replay and I look at it and I'm like, look, he just barely got through. Oh my God. That's what I want to feel. I want to see that. I want that level of an experience. And that is either non-existent or few and far between in
I
Madden.
I think you put it excellently. See, you should be a writer. If you're watching this podcast, this show, and you somehow don't know who Mazik is, he writes for Forbes, and various other sources as well as his own stuff. So get on top of that. But you put it very well. You want to be able to say in a play session, stuff happened that you can't believe you pulled off.
Yeah.
I can't believe I did that.
Yeah.
And that comes from the inches. And going back to UFC, I know you've done it. Dodged back just enough
Just enough.
to put the knuckles on the chin or the kick on the chin at just the right time.
And anybody will tell you about any type of combat sport in real life. It's not about making a guy miss a lot. It's about making him barely miss, because when you make him barely miss, you
You're
can
still
counter
there.
quicker.
Absolutely. You're
He's
still right there.
Oh, bow. Those are the knockout shots. It's not, ooh,
And that's the thing about all pro football. I picked up all pro football super late, like 2012 or something like that,
mhm.
right? And because I was kind of hard on the game when it came out because it wasn't 2K5 graphically and all that other stuff.
I
I
think
didn't
it.
play it.
You know what? I think it was 2K5 graphically, and that was the problem.
It wasn't. I tell you from an artistic perspective, it wasn't.
Oh, okay. Well,
And I don't mean to drop the artist card on you.
no,
There's
no,
cer-
no, no. You probably no. I dig it. I can dig it. I can dig it.
there's certain things they did with the textures that were more muddy
Yeah,
in All Pro, and it turned me off. But it's still from an animation standpoint, it was there.
yeah,
The overall presentation still had certain things. Anyway, I picked it up late, and I've been playing Madden. I was so ridiculously refreshed. This is cold after 7 years of being away from 2K5. Being able to dance between the line with Barry Sanders is magical.
yeah.
It's like legitimately magical. Like you're like, oh my God, I forgot how much fun a football game could be.
I want to put some. I want to put you guys up on something. If you're not up on it, there is a insanely well organized simulation 2K8 league, all pro football 2K8, called the Simulation Football League. If you're not aware of it, open another tab and pull up YouTube and search SFL football playoffs season or something like that. They have basically taken all pro football and they have run season after season after season of simulated football. So basically, these guys have all their own players. They've put in all their own players, and they're not actually playing. They're like drafting fictional players and putting all this stuff together. And literally, they have a traditional sports level play-by-play guy calling the games.
That's sick.
And it's insane. It's
Can
so
you tweet
insane.
out a link of that?
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat. It is,
Yeah,
when you
dope.
see it, it will totally renew. If you lost any thirst at all for all pro 2K8, you will see what I'm saying. It is
Yeah.
crazy good. Like I don't, it's hard for me to even put it in the perspective how good the presentation is and just how good the game, how good of a game of football this
Yeah.
thing plays. It's crazy. I'm telling y'all, take a look at that right there. I just put it in the chat. This is
And
just one random game that they
And
have.
I don't mean to be disrespectful towards the Madden developers because we're not 2K fanboys over here. We're not EA haters over here. If they make a bad game, we gonna dog them. They make a good game, we're gonna praise them. And I know those guys are hard workers over there and they want to do a good job.
Mhm.
But that's the element that I'm looking for to get excited about a Madden game. I don't want to hear about your new features. In fact, I do want to hear about that stuff. I like my career. I like all that stuff. That's cool. But if the game is not genuinely fun, like video game picking up the controller makes me excited to do things. We have a saying in the fighting game community, it's just fun to push buttons in this game.
Mhm.
You gotta make it fun for us to push buttons. I don't think it's been fun to push buttons in Madden. I think all of the rest of the things in Madden, the licensed soundtrack, the slick graphics, the connected careers, What's
Oh,
the name
that
of it?
sucks. That actually sucks.
Well, but I'm saying it's still a feature that they have. What's the name of their not my career, but their story mode?
The long shot.
Long shot. The long shot stuff. It's all covering up what is not an inherently fun experience as a video game. And every department needs to work on their part. Getting a sack needs to be exciting, not just because you got a sack, but the journey to the sack. The
Yeah.
difference between a swim or a juke, you know what I'm saying, or pancake in a guy like that all has to feel really good
And you know
before
what's
the
so
sack
crazy?
happens.
You know what's so crazy though? There were versions of Madden where it did.
Yeah,
There were versions of Madden where it did. Like if you go back to the early 2000s, early to mid 2000s, it did. Like I maintain Madden '07 is still the best version of the game. I think it was the one with Vince Young on the cover.
yeah, yeah. NCAA and that
Oh,
year,
well, NCAA was better. If dude,
oh,
NCAA
crazy.
14, the last one they made is that is better than every single Madden game all the way back to like '07 to me. Like 14 is you want to talk about having fun doing stuff.
Yeah,
14 is really good.
and they need to
You know,
get to that. They
yeah,
need to get back to
they
that.
really need to get to that. But speaking of having fun pushing buttons,
Oh yeah.
let's talk about Mortal Kombat 11.
Oh
I
yeah.
I played a lot the first 2 days. I actually didn't get it. Did I play it yesterday? No, I think I did play. I think I played 3 matches yesterday. I was 2-1 yesterday. Um, the game is I'm still searching for something that I don't like.
There's one thing about the game I don't like. I
Yeah, I
don't
haven't
like
found
that every screen asks me for a cancel or confirm.
say that
If I
again?
I don't like that every screen asks me for a cancel or confirm. It just feels like an extra step to everything. It's like main menu, yes. Cancel or confirm that. Yes, I said yes. Yes, main menu. Get me out of here. Everything feels like that. Stop and it's spelled with a C. Stay on brand. Stay on brand.
Right.
What are these words spelled with C's? But no, in all seriousness, first, okay, let's talk a little controversy before we get into the review. We both like the game. Spoiler alert: we both like the game. It's an awesome game, and I want to get into the awesomeness of the game in a little bit. But let's talk about the controversy. So there's two controversies with the game.
Yes.
One controversy was with the quote unquote loot boxes. So there's this awesome area called the crypt,
Mhm.
where you take all your currency with a K from
Okay,
the
wait,
game.
okay, so there's 3 controversies because you just named one that's different than the 2 I was thinking.
Okay, so all right, well let's get into it. So you go into the crypt and you unlock all of the stuff. Now the way you get the currency is to play in the towers, right?
Okay.
And you do the tower, and the towers of time when the game came out were really hard.
Okay,
And
no,
we don't
same controversy,
same
same one.
controversy.
Same one.
So, and we don't mean hard like you're a scrub, get better. No, we talking about personal. We talking about professional fighting game players who know all the combos, getting hit by unblockable missiles that were like a condition of the match. These aren't normal matches. They had too many unblockables. NetherRealm said we did not do this to nickel and dime you guys. There's not that many microtransactions in the game, so it wasn't about microtransactions. It's just that which was a mistake that a lot of the game and media picked up. They saw that there was microtransactions in the game. They assumed that it was designed to be grindy so you pay for it. You cannot go in and buy everything in the game. It's not even designed like that. There are streamers who are like, if I could have bought it, I'd have bought it already because I'm tired of these towers of time, but I can't buy it. NetherRealm immediately held a podcast about it,
Mhm.
did a hot fix for some of the things. They have a patch that's supposed to go up today or tomorrow, Monday the latest, to address the rest of the stuff. And as an apology for something that was basically only a day 1 and 2 problem,
Yep.
they're going to give 500,000 combat coins in addition to other currencies to their base. This is a company that just gets it. They
Yep.
have had thorough, consistent community feedback since day -45, introducing the characters, explaining the mechanics. They understand their tournament scene and their casual scene. They understand the people who are just there for the story just as well as the people who are there because they want to get really good and compete in tournament. So huge props to them for jumping on top of that problem and fixing it. The towers are fine now. They're going to put in another fix to make it a little easier, but do understand they want the towers to be challenging. They want some there for the people who are good and some there for the people who are casual. But they've already toned it down. They've subtracted the health of the bad guys by like 50% in the towers or something like that. The health was too high. So all of that's already taken care of. The other controversy was the female characters. That was another one
Oh, say
people
I
cried
know. Okay,
about.
we do have a separate controversy.
Okay, so controversy number two, and I'm going to put the artist hat on this one again. For guys who don't know me, I'm a professional comic book artist and designer, so I want to speak to this a little bit. The controversy was that the women were wearing too many clothes. That back in the day, the Mortal Kombat women were all in bikinis, and now they saw some characters when the game launched, and they were like, covered toe to neck. And when asked about it, one of the art directors said basically, we wanted to be more respectful of our female characters. They wouldn't be going out there in bikinis fighting. And so people got very outraged at this for some good reasons, some bad reasons, right? The outrage is because you got people like Kano and Liu Kang and Shao Kahn who's out there in no shirt, or Shao Kahn's out there in his drawers, and they look like they're in their barbarian gear. Basically, only their genitals are covered, and they're allowed to do that. But women, they get treated differently. People didn't like that. Both from the female side, there are a lot of female, women YouTubers and streamers who felt that that was unfair, because that's like saying if a woman wears a bathing suit, she's disrespecting herself. And we see female athletes, they don't always wear a lot of clothes, right? You look at volleyball, you look at MMA, they're wearing tight, form-fitting clothes. But the people who jumped on that controversy were reacting to his words. When you actually play the game, there's a lot of skin-tight outfits in the game, and there's quite a few outfits in what could be favorably called booty shorts, with a little covering on top of the booty shorts. There's some boob windows in there. You play the story mode, there's plenty of butt shots in the story mode.
There are.
I do not think that they played super conservative. I think the problem with Mortal Kombat with their female design happens also with their ninjas.
With your
They,
who's?
the ninjas,
No.
right? No, I mean ninjas. I mean actual ninjas.
No, that was pretty funny. No, I know it was just funny.
Yeah. Not, I don't. So the thing about
Ooh,
the
that was funny.
ninjas that's been my complaint for a while with Mortal Kombat is they don't look very ninja, right?
Yeah,
They don't look stealthy or quiet. They look like they walking around in a leather trench coat designed to look like a ninja outfit. It looks
yeah.
heavy. It looks hot. They got metal clinking and clanking, and you're supposed to be a ninja. That ain't sneaky. Who you sneaking up on? Scorpion and Sub-Zero walking down the hallway. You hear
So,
clink, clank, clink, clank.
so what you're saying is all ninjas are sneaky?
Yeah, that's right. Some sneaky ass ninjas, man. You know how ninjas are,
I was just looking at all these ninjas.
right? And the women are supposed to have some of that aspect in their design, where
Yeah.
the design's supposed to feel sleek and fast. So one example is Jade. She's supposed to be this desert character, and when you look at the drawing of her design, it looks like it makes sense. She looks more like she's wrapped up in like a, like desert gear, right? Scarves and hoods hide you from the sun, but it's still loose and windy. But in the game, it's like a leather version of that, and she looks hot as hell. And her power is to absorb blood through her skin. So why would she be wearing her skin totally covered?
Well, honestly, man, I think all of that kind of stuff is just so silly, man. Like,
I
why
agree.
why are we even talking about whether or not the characters in Mortal Kombat have on enough clothes? Like, really? Like that to me, that is just I mean, that's the last thing that I want to be talking about. Like, I mean, it's dude, I think it's the most petty, dumb thing I've ever heard in my life. Like I'm just convinced that this generation just is looking for something to complain about at all times. Like they're not fine unless they can say that somebody is mistreating somebody, even if it's not them. They want to intercede on somebody else's behalf. Well, I'm not a dog, but I think that all dogs go to heaven, and you're not. Like, what, dude? Shut up, man. Like, what is going on? Like, it's just
Right.
ridiculous, dude.
Yeah, and they made a big deal controversy about it. I think honestly this is the best the Mortal Kombat women have looked. I think their facial designs are the best they've looked in a long time. I mean, and now to get to let's get to the third controversy before we
Yeah.
talk about.
So the third controversy is related to Jax. Now
Oh yeah.
there were people saying that Jax's ending in the story mode was racist, and so I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but this is just as ridiculous, if not as ridiculous as the concept that the girls have on too many clothes. I mean, like, dude, there's no way to win, right? So if the girls didn't have on any clothes, then they'd be going through some dead or alive type of a
Hmm.
controversy, where now we're talking about the women are scantily clad and all that. There's no winning, because no matter what happens, somebody's going to say that you have offended them in some way, shape, or form. And you know what? It's a video game, bro. That's what it is. So would you relax and have some fun? Push some buttons. Push some buttons. Just push some. I'm pushing buttons right now. I'm pushing buttons right now. Because Nelson got to talking about Mortal Kombat, and I just felt like I needed to kick somebody.
I like it.
I
So
had to.
I totally agree with you. And the thing about Jax's ending is a fantasy of his character.
Yes.
It's not the game telling you the way the world should be. So if you don't like Jax's ending, maybe that means you don't like Jax. That's totally okay. It's
Yeah.
fine. It's Mortal Kombat. Let me tell
It's
you,
a
here's spoiler
character.
alert.
It's a character, man. And why is it that everything has to be, even in a, like, we don't look for like these statements, these moral statements in movies. So why do we look for them in video games? It's
And let's talk about the game they're looking for then. So in Mortal Kombat, there's a part in the story mode. This ain't a spoiler. You're Cassie Cage, and you're supposed to spar with Sonya, your mom, to
right.
prove yourself.
Yep.
And in this fight, I hit her in the forehead with the bottom of my gun, broke her skull, kicked her in the stomach, shot her in the knees.
Yes.
She fell down, bled all over the floor in front of our coworkers, and then after the fight was over, got up, totally clean, and said, "Good job, kid.
Right.
This the game y'all want to have fights over?"
Right. And so now, can somebody say, well, this is being a proponent of children beating up their parents?
Right,
I mean,
right.
we're living in preposterous land right now. So why is that no good?
Yeah, it's silly to argue these kinds of topics over Mortal Kombat. I don't think the game is political. I don't think the game is woke or not woke enough. I think it's an awesome, fun video game with great developers who really appear to be paying attention. I think the microtransaction thing totally misread by most of the mainstream gaming media who don't dig deep into the game. I think the clothing thing is just flat out wrong. Y'all didn't beat story mode. Y'all exposed yourselves. And the Jack is just one. The Jack's thing is one ending from one character. It's not the theme of the whole game
No.
by any stretch. He could
It's
be wrong.
no. I mean, and here's the thing. It's not as if I could almost see if Jax turned into Nat Turner. Which I think would have been pretty awesome. Not because I want to see people, a bunch of white people killed, but I just think that from a historical standpoint,
Right.
and having a character go that way would have been like, whoa. Now, but I could understand if that's what happened. If Jack said, I decided to set the world white, right, and that meant killing every white slave owner, whether it be man, woman, or child.
Right.
I
Right.
did
Right.
it. And then I burned them on the forehead with my cigar. Now, if that had happened, then I could understand
But
people
and even
saying,
if that happened, all that means is Jax is an a hole.
right,
That's
right,
all it means. You're like, oh man, I thought you was cool. You a jackass.
right. I mean, and I mean, you know what I'm saying? It is what it is, So
Brian, like, I ain't saying he's right, but I understand.
I'm saying,
Don't let me get the time
right,
stone.
I'm saying that actually happened in history.
Yeah,
Nat
yeah, yeah,
Turner
yeah.
led a slave revolt and nearly took over. I think it was in Virginia. It was at Gabriel Prosser's in Virginia. He led one of the most one of the most prolific slave revolts in American history, right? So that actually happened. But I can understand why people might say, well, man, that's a lot to show in a video game, he killed, whatever. But at the same token, you flip it just it kills me when people start to quantify sins, right? So you're sitting up and you're playing a video game, like you just said, where you beating up your mother to a bloody pulp, punching her all in the head, knocking her down, busting her teeth out. But then you say something about, oh, well, I think it was racist that Jax only wanted to free the African American slave. There's other slaves. What? So now the moment you pick up Mortal Kombat and say I'm gonna play, you are agreeing to throw most morals out of the window because
Yeah.
you are about to rip somebody's head off.
And just to be real with y'all for a second, I think if you're black, you know a lot of black folks with a lot of silly ideas of what they would do if they went back in time. They probably told you after a night of enjoying some adult recreation. You know what I do? I go back and do this. You be like, man, I don't agree with you. And Jackson's just that dude.
Jax is that guy. Jax is the one who
Right.
everybody had a boy that said, I wish I would try to whoop me in slavery. Whoop me
Right.
for time. I'm smashing master. I'm killing him. I'm killing
Right.
him. Jax is that guy.
He
Okay.
literally
That's
gonna
what
go
Jax
back
is.
in time with bionic arms and punch the slave owners, like, and make sure this never happens. Like, it's silly.
It's
Maybe
silly.
Jackson's
That is
silly.
the word. That is the
Right.
word. It is absolutely silly.
And that's
The whole
totally
thing.
okay.
And honestly, I wasn't really that much of a fan of the people whining and crying about the difficulty level of the towers. I mean, I understood on one hand, right? But see, I guess what I can't get out of my head, right, is that this generation is so soft. Like, is so freaking soft, man.
I
Like,
understand where you're going with this,
but,
B,
but,
but
but,
I
but
gotta argue on this one.
let me say what
Go
I'm
ahead,
let me say what I'm saying.
please.
I feel like there used to be games back in the day that were either flat broken, just flat broken, or they were so freaking hard that it was just out of, oh my god, this is, you can't tell me this game is this hard. And but we didn't, there was nobody to cry to. There was nobody to say, hey, man, y'all really need to change this game because it's too hard for me. Like, it's just something about saying that out of my mouth. You need to change the rules because it's too hard for me. What? What? Really? Where they do that at? Like,
Okay,
I
in
just,
theory, I agree with you, but game design is an art, right?
right?
And it's supposed to work. And when you have a community that has dedicated literally millions of hours to your game over the years, and they are better at your game than you are, and you trust them to come in and test your game, and they tell you that the difficulty's broken, that's a different thing than somebody like we see with 2K. They go, I don't have enough attributes in my career. Meanwhile, a good 2K player is averaging anywhere from 50 to 100 points in my career or Hall of Fame, right? You get enough attributes to be better than an NBA player, any NBA player who's ever lived, no matter what position you play in 2K. So that's different because you're talking about scrubs not putting in the time and the effort to really exploit their advantages as a player to raise their skill. They want the game to be brought down to their skill level. We're talking about the best players in the history of Mortal Kombat being like, this is impossible. And not, again, it's not impossible because I'm playing a game of Mortal Kombat and I'm just not good enough. I'm missing my punishes, I'm missing my execution. You're literally throwing unblockable missiles and meteorites at me from off the screen. And it takes, 40 hours to beat 4 towers, and you only give me, you know, 20,000 coins for it. I unlock 4 boxes. This is not good. And
Well,
we're the best players. We're the best players on the planet.
well,
Y'all can't beat us.
I did see one person say that it's not that the difficulty was too hard, that they were like, it's beatable, and I see how to beat it, and I can beat it, and I am beating it. He said, but my problem is that it feels really tasky, and it's not actually fun beating the task. That was the way
Well,
one person explained it.
and here's the thing. Again, I'm going to the best players on the planet here, right? So I consider them the authority because they have the physical tactics to beat the hardest computer, right? And what they were saying is for the amount of currency you get, this is supposed to be a farming mode. And it's not a predictable, fair thing. See, it's one thing if it's difficult, but once you master it, you can always do it. But when a randomizer is literally throwing unblockable objects out at you, there are guaranteed losses involved.
Hmm.
It's not about your reactions, it's not about your skill, it's about bad tuning. And the thing is, NetherRealm agreed immediately. They said this is something that happens towards the end of development. We had schedule issues and we weren't able to retune that and check it the way we wanted to in time for launch. Because if you guys aren't aware, and now we're going to start praising the game, this is a big fighting game. There are a lot of modes in this game, and all of them are basically excellent. And so the towers, there's a lot of towers. So they didn't have time to go into all of the towers and double check it. They put their settings on, they said it, forget it. They wanted to come back to it. It just so happens that what left, launch was tuned below their standards. And they fixed it already. They lowered the bad guys had twice the health of your hero. When you play normal Mortal Kombat, everybody has the same health. So already you can jack the numbers up and make it impossible, right? So if I say, oh yeah, the towers are beatable, but it takes 25 combos to kill a boss, then literally that's amount of time. That's not amount of difficulty. And you're saying so basically I don't get my coins until I spend 10 minutes beating this one character. So
Well,
you're
it's like,
saying forever. So then you have an economy problem because
mhm.
I can calculate even in the most optimal scenario how much coins I get for how much investment I put in. And I'm saying it would take me until the end of the year to unlock the costumes. That's not enjoyable. That just makes me not want to touch your unlocks and not deal with it. And that's not what NetherRealm wants. They want you in the crypt, unlocking boxes, in the towers, playing the game, being rewarded for beating the people. And the thing is, NetherRealm has already come out and addressed this and said the community's right. So this isn't a scenario where their intended design is being softened. This is a scenario where the deadline crunch came on. They have a big, brilliant game. This slipped through the cracks. They've already fixed most of it.
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, I understand what you're saying, and I'm not even saying that you're wrong. What I'm saying is just the notion of complaining about the difficulty of a game is just something that I never even thought about doing. I never did. I mean, I never thought it's just you beat it. That's what you do. You do. I mean, I can't tell you how many games over these 35, 38 years I've been gaming that I've come up to that I was like, this is freaking impossible. Like, I remember trying to figure out that you had to plug the controller into the second port to beat Psycho Mantis.
Right, right.
And it was like, what is going on? Like, why can't I do this? And I figured it out. And when I figured it out, it was like, oh my God, this is dope. You know what I'm saying? And but people don't want that experience anymore. They
Well,
don't.
I mean, I disagree on the sense that some of in fact, we've had this discussion a little bit before, and I do want to get back to the main thing of Mortal Kombat because it's a great game and it deserves to be spoken about. But on the difficulty thing, it goes back to what you said before. People are going to complain, right? Whiners are going to whine. So no matter what happens, there's going to be people whining about it. But if you look at some of the best games out, Overwatch, Rainbow Six, Siege, League of Legends, Dark Souls, Sekiro, I mean on and on and on, Bloodborne, I would even say Spider-Man on the hardest difficulty, definitely. These games are hard and
Mhm.
people love them. You know what I'm saying? Even Red Dead is not an easy game out of the
Red
box.
Dead's not easy at all.
Right. These are hard games. And people love them. So I don't think it's that people don't want it. I think what it is gamers are salty crybabies by nature,
Mhm.
and the internet is a microphone held up to somebody's face as they go through all of their gaming experiences. And it's basically Twitter should be called what you want to cry about,
Mhm.
right? So you hop on
I think I'm gonna create. I
whatyouvantocrybout.com.
think I'm gonna create a acronym for Twitter that really defines whining.
Yeah. So people are gonna cry. I agree with you on the sentiment that people don't put it on themselves to solve the problem enough. And we're losing the notion, the idea that you should discover the solution in a game. You shouldn't be told, you shouldn't look it up on YouTube. I talk about this with my brother all the time. It's not always fun to go on the YouTube thing and find the answers. Sometimes it's fun to just walk around that map until you discover it. It's a good feeling. It's a good feeling to solve those gaming problems yourself. And I think people do look for an easier way out. But I want to give the gaming community credit. They love these difficult games. Some of the most beloved games out there, some of the hardest games out there. So I don't think it's totally one sided, but it's just hard to see the whining and not, say that that's where things have gotten now. Because when we came up, you weren't allowed to whine. You were just a scrub
Yeah,
and you were ridiculed and shamed for it. And you deserve to be.
yeah, and I just think that that's really still the same way. But it's like we used to complain, when games were hard. But as you said, the difference is when we complain when games were hard, we didn't have anywhere to go to take it to somebody where we could just get it out in front of everybody and and get it actually changed. We couldn't we it wasn't that we didn't have that resource, but now it exists. But like you said, the game is fantastic.
Excellent game. I want to talk about how good the game is for a quick second before we get to what are the last part of our topic with Mortal Kombat. I think it's a great game. It deserves an extended segment. Um, I was so shocked by how good the story mode was.
Whew,
When you talk about, they say, what's the best video game movie? Play the Mortal Kombat story mode. That's the best video game
that's the
movie.
video. That's the best one. It's really it's even better than Injustice 2 story.
Yes, and I've been impressed with the NetherRealm storytelling since Mortal Kombat 9. Thought Mortal Kombat 9 was good. I thought Injustice 1 was very good. Mortal Kombat X was very good, and Injustice 2 was fantastic.
Yes.
But this right here, no exaggeration, their story and animation and design is better than Anthem's by a lot, which is
Absolutely.
shocking.
Absolutely.
Right, that a
Absolutely.
Mortal Kombat, you can, like, honestly, if y'all aren't interested in this game, rent it and beat the story mode. It's that good. It's rewarding to
Yeah.
rent this game and beat the story mode. It's dope.
Yeah.
It is a perfect sci-fi fantasy action movie. It's bloody, it's dumb, it's funny, it's exciting. The choreography is excellent, and the graphics in this game are mind-blowing to me because when the characters are talking to each other in a cutscene, they will, in the middle of the conversation, you'll zoom out and they'll continue talking in their side to side fight pose as the guy's telling you to fight them.
Yeah.
And it's just like almost disorienting how, I don't want to say realistic 'cause that's a generic word, but just how developed the graphics look going into a normal fight. NetherRealm is advancing the fighting game genre. Every game they make now. This game is stellar.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I'm still only like 4 or 5 days into playing the game. Man, 3 or 4 days playing it now. Man, I'm telling you, there is nothing that I don't like. Like, there's nothing that I like. I'm like, oh, well, I don't like that. I have not found the thing yet that is like, I don't like that. No, I really haven't. And that's saying a lot for me because the first night I spent, because they keep your time, how long you played it. So the first night I spent 2 hours and 40 minutes playing. Then the
Hmm.
next night I spent another hour and a half. I'm enough into this game to have found something I don't like,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
I have not found something that I don't like yet.
Hmm.
So, yeah, man. I mean, for me right now, I mean, we're only through about 4 months, but it is absolutely the best game of the year so far to me, just top to bottom. I think it's
Yeah, yeah, I would say so. I don't think anything else that's come out has
I
been
can't think
close
of
to this.
anything else that came out so far this year that's better. MLB The Show is really, really, really good, but that because it's baseball and it has an actual reference point that it has to emulate, it's at a little bit of a disadvantage because you can always say, "Oh, well, this real thing is in real baseball and yours isn't."
You
But
know what?
even if you
I
don't do that, even if you just say, if you only compare MLB The Show to other sports games, there are some sports games that do some things better than the show. So
yeah.
because of that, I would say Mortal Kombat 11 is better because I don't know a lot of fighting games. I can't think of one all right now that executes what it's trying to do better than what Mortal Kombat, how it executes what it's trying to do. So
Yeah, and from a hardcore standpoint, this game is a better fighting game, technically. On
yes,
top of being a better casual game, just the graphics and the music and the character design and the features, all that stuff is great. But as a fighting game, it's a better fighting game.
it's so
Um,
slick.
yeah, the slickness, the movement. I'm going to throw out some terms you guys might not know, but stuff like footsies and whiff punishing that normally you're used to from Street Fighter, much better in this game from another realm. It even has wave dashing in it. Wave dashing is this thing where you can speed up your dash by doing a really technical input in the game, where your character kind of slides across the screen. NetherRealm says they're aware of it, they're leaving it in, they like that it's there. Normally, you see it in Marvel vs. Capcom or Smash Brothers, and it's in Mortal Kombat, which means aggressive characters have an extra tool to pursue their opponents, but still be able to block, which changes the dynamics of the game. This game is real. The fighting game community is really excited about it. The tournaments in Brooklyn and California were absolutely popping. Out here in New York City, the greatest Mortal Kombat player ever, Sonic Fox, he's living here now. He goes to NYU. He was here playing in tournament. Really exciting so far, man. Just really, really dope.
Yeah, I'm loving the game. I really am.
So, speaking of loving the game, you're terrible. And it's okay. We're all terrible.
I started to turn on and let y'all watch me win, but I said that's okay. I'm not gonna do it. Not gonna do it.
So we had a topic real quick. We was talking about it. Brian was saying to me that he was trying to get good with Jackson, just couldn't do it.
Right.
And so what I was saying to him was basically, let me tell you guys how to get good at a character in this game. Like particularly if you're new to Mortal Kombat or fighting games, it all comes down to a few key things. Number one, first and foremost, when you pick a character, figure out what their overall game plan is. It's not about the combos, it's about what's their game plan. Is their game plan to put your opponent in the corner and mix them up, go high, go low, go throw? Is the game plan to zone them out with fireballs? Or is the game plan to keep them in the neutral zone and just hit them with really good buttons? Those are your three basic kind of game plans in Mortal Kombat. Mix up, zoning, or buttons. Once you figure out your game plan and you get some basic combos, you don't need the best combos in the world. Just get some good basic ones. Learn how to use your meter to get more damage. The next thing you want to do is figure out your opponent's game plan. As you fight a character and you get hit with stuff, don't just lose and be salty. Ask what you might have been able to do to stop it. And to
Yeah.
do that, you need to get a hold of that character, do it yourself in like training mode, and just see what stops it. Does it block high, block low? Do I punish it? A lot of things in the game that are really fast, you could just duck and uppercut it. With you, right?
Yeah.
So figure out your counters to what your opponent is doing. And then after that, you have to understand that fighting games are a mind game. So once you know your game plan and you know their game plan and they know their game plan and they know your game plan, it's about what do you think I'm going to do? Do you think I'm going to jump? Do you think I'm going to block? Do you think I'm going to press a button? Do you think I'm going to stop this string or am I going to continue it? It's all about that stuff. Once you learn those three basic things, you can get good at any character in this game. Mortal Kombat's not a difficult game to get solid at. Not good, but you can at least get solid, get a bunch of wins online, beat up on your friends. Learn your game plan, their game plan, and learn how to block.
I would agree. I am currently implementing those strategies right now. I just hit Jax in the stomach I could show you, but you guys, you're not ready. You're not ready. You're not ready. I could show Nelson my skills firsthand, but I don't think that I don't want him to get intimidated and not
Yeah,
show up for
please.
the game.
We
I don't
want the
want
stream to happen.
it. Is that what it's gonna be? That what it's gonna be? Is that how it's going to be? Actually, my man Sean, our resident MMA fan, he has a Ask Us Bro question because I think that we are ready for Ask Us Bro.
Yeah.
And
We got time for one because I'm about to get back in this crypt after this.
you're gonna get in the crypt. Come on, man, don't get in the crypt.
I need to unlock some costumes, man.
What I hope they listened to you and told you know when they said that it was too hard and things happen, all these bad things that y'all was whining about because y'all can't take nothing out here in these streets. But did you? I'm trying to pull. I was trying to get it back up for because basically he was saying, is there what can if there's anything can T.J. Dillashaw do to his um repair his image after the failed drug test?
First of all, he need to stop drinking every drop of the Rock's tequila, cause that man looked like he went through 18 years of alcoholism in one weekend.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I mean, well, I'm quite sure there's a little bit of a depression going on there. I mean,
Yeah,
everything that
he was unrecognizable.
yeah, everything that he worked on, man, or worked for one way or the other is gone.
Yeah, he looked like T.J. Dillashaw's overweight older cousin.
Yeah, man, it all dropped pretty bad. It all pretty.
And it was
I
days.
also wanted to tell you that your artwork is dope, and
Oh,
B
much
is playing
appreciated.
the sports and gaming world, and I really appreciate you saying that as well, Sean.
Same here.
But here's the thing: uh, MMA is extremely forgiving as a sport. Um, very rare. I mean, think about the people who are still existing in the MMA world right now, and you think about some of the things that they've done and the fact that they're still there. I mean, there's a lot of people who have been caught with PEDs that are still, still doing it. Look at John. I mean, John's situation is definitely different, but I mean, he has the dirt on his record. And the thing of it is that the one thing we talked about on the show is that not all PED violations are created equally. So it's definitely different. And TJ's is definitely one of the worst ones you're gonna ever see because of
Yeah.
what he was taking.
Yeah, a
But
picogram of tainted supplements is different than you coming out the locker room with 4 needles sticking out your butt with the super soldier serum dripping from them.
yeah, I mean, to like we said before, if you got a guy who is taking something to enhance his endurance, and his endurance is his biggest attribute, that's an issue.
Well, and he was taking the worst of the worst
Yes,
for at least a decent amount of time. I think
yeah,
what hurts Dillashaw more, honestly. See, John was the best fighter ever. He still is.
yes,
He's the best fighter of all time. One of the greatest fighters of any kind that's ever lived. So with John, him coming back depended heavily upon him getting his head right. That's what everybody said about John, right?
yes.
As long as John gets his head in the game and he keeps out the clubs, keeps off the drugs.
Well, actually, I think John was smoking in the room. I don't think he needed to go to the club. John was not a social user.
Right. So yeah, so as long as John cleaned up his act, he would be fine. The issue with Dillashaw is at Dillashaw's age, which is, I mean, he's going to be older than John was when he came back, significantly so,
Yeah,
and the fact that we don't know how good Dillashaw is when he's clean. So coming back older and being clean, I think it's less about the moral aspect of his redemption and more about the fact that MMA is very what have you done for me lately?
yeah,
And if Dillashaw 2 years removed comes into a hot division and loses 2 fights, he gonna get thrown away real quick.
yeah, yeah. And I think honestly, I think the least amount of Dillashaw's worries is his reputation. Like, I
Yeah,
don't think that'll be an issue. I think that he'll be allowed to fight, and when he comes back, I think that they'll accept him. I mean, because to a lesser degree, right? Chad Mendez popped and just served a 2-year suspension, right? But when he came back, he wasn't the same guy,
right.
and that was more of an issue than whether or not whether or not he was going to be accepted. He was accepted. He just couldn't fight anymore without the juice, or maybe
Yeah,
he lost the hunger. Whatever the reason, his problem was competing, not getting the access. And I think that TJ is going to have the same problem. It's going to be
Agreed. If TJ can come back and be excellent, I think he'll be fine. But if TJ comes back and he's not as good as he was when he was clean, or his training isn't as good, or he's just older, again, he's in a division where age punishes you a lot more so than the heavier divisions.
yes.
Yeah, it'll be more about his octagon performance. 1989 had a question: why is Mark Jackson not getting a second chance? Is he taking the John Gruden approach?
I honestly think that Mark Jackson really burned some bridges with the way that things went with Golden State. Because I think everybody knows that Mark Jackson didn't lose his job because he couldn't coach. And Steve Kerr often would concede that, this this is Mark Jackson's team. He said that early on. He isn't saying it as much now because the team had an opportunity to, actually grow with him. But Mark Jackson set this team up for a championship. He set this team up. He built that DNA with this team that really launched it into where it is now. So I don't think that his issue is that he can't, or that even that general managers don't think he can. I think that it is 100% a character issue. Well, I shouldn't say a character issue, a character concern. And I think that that's where the issue is with Mark Jackson.
And when we say character concern, we don't mean that Mark is a bad guy, because
Exactly. I'm talking
clearly,
about their concerns.
yeah.
Yeah.
Real quick, are you playing on? Oh no, yeah, you on PS4. Um, the concern with Mark is that in an organization, he creates a culture that the organization doesn't want. And this is controversial because it's a lot of behind the scenes stuff. Because the players, when Mark was initially fired, I think maybe with the exception of Draymond, they were really upset. They wanted Mark around.
Yeah.
Steph Curry, initially had a very negative reaction to Mark getting let go. So it's not a players thing; it's an organizational thing, and it's always important to understand. And I know you guys know this, but just for the sake of reminder, it gets very political in an organization.
Yes. And the higher you go, it gets even more political.
Absolutely. So with Mark, he's going to be working in the most political realm, being in the front office, and you know, you mess up with the politics, and you can really, it doesn't matter how good you are a lot of time.
Yeah. And I think Mark may have just pissed off the wrong person. And he may have pissed off a person who has significant influence. And that is what is hindering him right now. But I do think he'll get another shot. I do. I think
Yeah, I've heard of people who wanted to hire him.
Yeah, I think Phoenix is definitely a possibility. We'll see if that
Well,
happens.
here's a good question: who do you think? Where do you think he should go?
I think Phoenix is a great place for him to go.
Hmm.
And the reason why I think that is because Phoenix doesn't really have an identity yet. And I think Mark needs to go someplace where they don't have an identity so that he can give them one. And the identity that he'll give them is a winning identity. What I'm not sure about yet, and only maybe because he hasn't had an opportunity to prove it, is Mark a get you over the hump guy, or is he a get you to the hump guy? Because he really he just but he didn't get a chance to prove it.
Yeah,
Maybe he is.
no, they
But
got better every year.
yeah, they got better every year. Steph got it better as a player.
And so
Everything.
someone made the excellent point that the the Draymond Green issue wasn't some genius by Kerr. David Lee got hurt. He had to play
Yeah,
Draymond
yeah,
Green.
yeah, yeah. So we'll see. We'll see, man. But
I think the Lakers would be the best for him and the Lakers.
yeah, that's an interesting place for me. That's an interesting thing for me there. I honestly think. Oh, here's another thing. I think that Billy Donovan should be on the hot seat. I really do. I really think that. I think that Mark. I would be interested in seeing how Mark Jackson and Russell Westbrook, how they mesh. I would really be interested in that.
What I would like about Mark and OKC is they have a lot of good defensive talent,
Yes.
particularly if Robertson comes back
Yes.
healthy.
Yeah.
Because people forget he was an elite perimeter defender. So Mark, with that kind of personnel, I think could do some good things. I'm easy on Donovan for the same reason I only give a percentage of the blame to Westbrook, and that's because the roster is poorly constructed offensively. Their shooting is just too bad. That's on Presti. If Presti puts shooting around them and they still are struggling with spacing or they're still struggling with ball movement or something like that, then it's a different story. But their lack of depth makes them really susceptible to health problems, which is what they ran into when Paul George was healthy. They were an elite team in the league, and he came back not healthy. And when they lost one of their very few shooters that they had, also, so they're down 3 players basically. And I don't put that on Donovan necessarily. Give him shooters. If he doesn't improve from there, then yeah. But I need to see Billy Donovan with a competent shooting roster.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. He worries me. He really worries me. Um, he worries me. It would be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, I mean, Mark Jackson. I think in either of those 3 places is not a bad thing. If the Thunder job was to become available, I think he'd be a great fit there. Lakers, I think he's a really good fit. I'm still crazy, naive, whatever enough to say I would love to see the person who's actually going to coach LeBron. I would love to see the person. And Mark Jackson might be the type of guy who would try. Maybe
That's
he'll
what I like
maybe
about
he'll
it.
get fired trying, but
Well, that's the thing. I don't. I think first of all, Mark. Let's not forget he was a great point guard. One of the top all time in assists. Very, very intelligent distributor of the basketball. So I think when he talks basketball with LeBron, he's not afraid to talk basketball with LeBron.
right.
You know,
You
and I
know,
think that's a really
honestly
positive
though,
thing.
truly, honestly, Luke Walton shouldn't have been afraid to talk basketball with LeBron. Luke
Well,
Walton
Luke
knows the
Walton,
game.
I believe, was part of the same draft class as LeBron.
That's hurtful. That's hurtful. No, it is. It is. 'Cause especially the older you get, the least likely you are to listen to people your age or younger.
Correct.
That's just the way people are. Because one of the first things an older person starts to say is, "How old are you?"
Right. Right.
In the middle of any type of conflicting ideas or concepts, a person says something, you go, "How old are you?" And if the person's answers with an age that's 5 years younger or more, or the same age in this situation, you're like, "Oh, okay, bro." And I think that I don't know. I don't know. I really think that somebody has to coach him. Somebody, and because somebody asked a question a little bit earlier today, and we're gonna bounce out after this, but they asked, was is LeBron James a stat pattern? And I think it was 1989.
Hmm.
Um, I don't think he has been a stat pattern most of his career or all of his career. I think he has gone through that, and I think he has been that kind of guy. Um, at times. But when they've won, I don't think he's been when he's won championships, I don't think he's been in when he was in Miami, I don't think he was a stat pattern. I think he was like, I gotta win a championship. You know why I gotta win a championship? Because I haven't won one, and I can't validate this career unless I win one. So at that time, I don't think he was, but I do think there were times there when LeBron feels that his team can't win, and this is not a positive trait at all. So let's just be clear about that. But when LeBron thinks that he can't win, that's when he becomes a stat pattern. Because in his mind, it appears, as I'm not in his mind, but it appears as though he says, I'm going to put up my numbers so nobody can say it's because of me. That's what it looks like to me. It's like, okay, we can't win 27 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. Y'all get off my back.
I'm actually going to agree with you to some extent. I don't think the term stat pattern is accurately thrown around because people will find 1 or 2 plays and be like, this guy's a stat pattern. When NBA players frequently tell you almost everyone's a stat pattern because stats is how you get paid.
Yep.
So they all pad stats. So to say that there's a few players out there who don't care about their numbers, they could score more than they do, but they're satisfied with their situation. That's the exception, and those guys generally aren't stars. There's some exceptions to that, like say Kevin Durant could probably score 35 pretty easily. That is
Easy.
not the way he enjoys playing the game.
Easy.
Right. That's not the way he likes playing the game. Right. Giannis, I would actually say, if Giannis, that's one of the reasons I have him for MVP. Giannis sat down a lot of these games. He could have stayed in and scored another 5, 10 points and gotten 30, 12, and 6, which looks better than 27, 12, and 6, and close the door to that conversation. Other guys would have done that. Giannis isn't that way, but most guys are like that. So to put that on LeBron as if Rudy Gay ain't trying to get as many points as he could possibly get,
And
that's ridiculous.
he's just not as gifted.
Right. That's what it is. Most guys just aren't as good.
Yeah.
So, but that having been said, do I think do I think LeBron plays losing basketball and is satisfied with getting his numbers? Yes, I do. And
Especially once he gets to the point where he has decided in his head that we're not good enough, that who I got with me is not good enough, he goes into that mode.
I don't know if that's it because he did it on the Cavaliers when. All right, we were gonna leave, but I got to throw this out there real quick. So many of those old Cavaliers are producing just fine on other teams, right? Like you look at Jay Crowder, just fine, or is it Damari Carroll? I always get them confused.
Well, no, Jay Crowder.
Jay Crowder, they twins. Um,
Ah,
Jay Crowder playing just fine in his situation. George Hill,
but
valuable
he
asset to the
wasn't at
Milwaukee
first
Bucks.
though. He was if well no you no he you know what it was he was playing great in Boston. He came to Cleveland and sucked, and then he got back to who he was when he went to Utah.
Magically, right?
He's
And
there.
this is
He not that Jay Crowder that that was never going to work right with him in Cleveland.
but here it's Derrick Rose, right? Derrick Rose
Yeah,
on
that one. Yeah.
Cleveland looked like he couldn't play a lick of basketball. He goes to the Timberwolves and he was running six man before Lou Williams went crazy. Dwayne Wade looked completely washed. Goes back to Miami. Are you sure you want to leave? Why don't you play another year? You get 16 points a game easy. It appeared to be a situation, and this is what my criticism of LeBron. He the last thing he wants to do is play defense. The last thing he wants to do is hustle at this point in his career. And that's what I think gets confused with him looking for the numbers. I don't think it's about him looking for the numbers. I don't think he's scoring the most points he could score or getting the most assists he could get. I think he's playing to his comfort. And his comfort is empty statistics. That's always been a part of his game, is empty statistics. He's just a guy who's going to get you rebounds, get you assists that don't necessarily add up to what you need winning all the time. When he was younger, he played much better defense, which does add to the winning. And he was, like Giannis, completely unstoppable going to the basket, which also adds to winning. As he got older and became more jump shotty and stopped playing defense, it got to a thing where on D, he's standing around watching his teammates play, pointing out mistakes when they do stuff wrong. And then on offense, he's waiting for the ball, gets the ball, and holds the ball. I don't think that's necessarily him stat padding. I think he's just being comfortable. And as far as his losing situation, I think that creates suboptimal teammate play, which in Cleveland, again, almost every player I could think of that was like a starting level player played better when they left that situation.
Yeah, I
And
think
more than
that
one, more than two, more than three, right?
I think that situation was just horrible. And and here's one thing I will always admit about LeBron. LeBron does not make bad situations better.
Right.
He makes bad situations worse.
Well,
He
I
makes
felt like in Cleveland, if he played 20% less offense and 20% more defense, they would have had a better record and been a better team.
honestly, I feel like if he just had a general better attitude in his last year in Cleveland, they would have been a better team.
I agree with that too.
He
Rodney Hood, good shout
yeah,
out to the chat, our
he just
intelligent chat coming up with it
he,
again. He's another one.
he just didn't have the right mindset at all at the end. And some of that I give a little bit of respect to. LeBron's one of those players. Like LeBron's one of my favorite players. He's Derek's my favorite player. LeBron's my second favorite player. But that doesn't mean I ignore the shortcomings, right? LeBron's one of those dudes that I've met a lot of NBA players. I got an opportunity to talk to a lot, interview a few, and so on and so forth. I've never met LeBron, and I actually don't want to because I have a feeling that it's going to be bad, right? Because his
People
something,
I know that have met him said he's a great dude.
yeah. But see, I know the opposite. So the thing I've heard
Really?
is the opposite. So,
Oh,
but
okay.
I don't know. I could be wrong. Maybe it wouldn't be that way. But the
I
thing
know
of it
some
is,
people who've run charities for him.
yeah, LeBron is his body language, all of that from a leadership standpoint is something that is when things go bad, it's nasty and it makes everything worse. And that's unfortunate. That's really unfortunate because I'll be the first to tell you he's not the best leader at all. He's not, because the greatest leaders, the best leaders, are great even when things are bad. And LeBron is not at his best when things are bad. So that is a sincere criticism of one of the greatest players to ever play the game.
Hmm.
Just not at his best when things are bad at all. And I think there's a lot of people who suffered through LeBron pitching a fit for like a good portion. And then the another bad thing about this, something that he does, is he throws his fit and creates a disturbance. And then when he gets himself back together, it's like, oh, everything's cool. Well, you've already created the distraction. And just because you're over it or you're moving on or you've decided to whatever doesn't mean that these six guys who have been affected, and they're not as talented as you. So they can't get 27, 7, and 8 like you can get it as easy as you can get it. So, like I said, those are sincere criticisms about a player that I truly, truly love to watch play. So
Yeah. I would
that's
even throw Brandon Ingram in that group. Funny enough, Brandon Ingram played a lot better once LeBron got hurt.
Yeah, he just doesn't play well with LeBron, just period. And maybe it's because LeBron didn't trust him like a true second uh get your own offense guy. Because when LeBron trusts you like he trusts Kyrie and like he trusted Dwayne Wade, he allows that player to do his thing. I don't know if he ever trusted him in that way. For whatever reason. It is what it is. But all right, guys, I appreciate everybody who was down, who watched the whole nine. Uh as usual, you can make sure, if you have not subscribed, please do. If you have not liked this video yet, please like it. If you have not shared it, please do that too. And if you don't know, I have my own channel. We do sports and gaming the same way over there. So if you're not aware of that, make sure you subscribe to that. It's Unique Mazik. And there is Nelson's Twitter handle. I was just about to hit Twitter after that. Has his Twitter handle. Mine is Unique Mazik. So go ahead and follow there as well. God bless and peace.